And we say hello to you on this Friday before Christmas. And we're glad you're here and look forward to what we think will be a really fun show and a meaningful show as well as we get started here. Our last show before the holidays. Thanks for being a part. And we begin talking about Joe Burrow Stadium, the high school stadium of the great Joe Burrow will have his name on it. How about that? That's not bad. Heisman Stadium, what's next? Well, what's next for Vanderbilt? Quarterback Mo Hassan has entered the transfer portal. And Nashville has reacted. So has Salt Lake City. Remember a couple weeks ago when I trashed you? Well, I didn't trash them. I just told the truth. I said the country didn't really want to see Utah in the playoffs. Columnist for the Salt Lake Tribune, Scott Pierce, said, hey, I was right. You know what? How often do you find an honest columnist in a town anymore? One that's not afraid of bucking the system. Well, Scott, you are my man of the year. I would come out to Utah to present you with an award, but I'm still not sure I feel safe out there in the land of the Utes. Could have been worse. Brandon Marcello, he's on deck. We'll talk to him about many things. Andy Staples will join us. Nick Suss from the Clarion Ledger. And then one of the great guests of the year, the Archbishop Joseph Marino. His new job is the president of the Pontifical Ecclesiastical Academy in Rome. He was the papal nuncio to Kuala Lumpur and that part of the world. And we'll talk about his new position. And also get some bowl picks from the... Anyway, we probably won't. Anyway, you can tell we're loose today. We're having fun because why not? It's the holiday season. And if you're not at an airport, you're lucky. 855-242-7285 is our number. Plenty of times for calls. And let's hit Augie, who is in NOAA. Hey, Augie, good afternoon to you.
Greetings, Paul. How are you, my friends?
I'm doing great, Augie. Great to have you on.
Hey, it's Christmas season, so things are slow, so I get to call in on a non-Monday.
I like that.
As far as Utah, you are persona non grata as far as I read last in the Salt Lake Tribune, so I would stay out of that.
I don't think I'm the first person to be persona non grata out there.
No, I think the U.S. government was the first.
Yeah, I think they were. And by the way, I have no issue with the state or the people of the state. I'm sure both of them are really good people.
They are. I actually had a seminar out at the university. It's really nice, and this was years back. Really nice university. Salt Lake City was very clean at the time, but now I hear they've got some issues. But all cities do. Paul, I know you're going to be talking with the papal nuncio, but if you had to take a trip to Rome to meet the Pope, which SEC coach would you take with you, and why?
Wow. I'd probably take, without thinking, I'd take Saban because I know he's Catholic, and there's a good chance the Pope may have heard of him. I mean, I don't mean this the wrong way, but if you're deciding to take Saban or Sam Pittman, I mean, which one would you choose?
I'd choose Ogeron. I mean, the guy from South Louisiana. Do you know that years ago in the 70s when Notre Dame played LSU, they put a fact out there were more Catholic students at LSU than Notre Dame, which I probably believe is still true. But
so I'm assuming Ogeron is Catholic?
Hey, he's from South Louisiana. I think the chances are like 99.99% he is.
Well, why don't I take both?
You could take them both. That would be pretty interesting. Now, you might need a translator for Coach O, and I'd volunteer for that. But
what makes me nervous, and I don't mean this the wrong way, but we go and we get blessed by the Pope, and he's talking in Latin, and then Coach O goes, "Go Tigers!"
Yeah, you definitely need a
that might just not be appropriate. I don't know. Maybe it would be. But, knowing this Pope, and I don't know him, but our guest later will, he probably would find that to be very humorous.
I think he would. And knowing if he has any real
of course. Hey, Augie, I know this happened a lot during the House impeachment investigation. But could I amend my answer?
Absolutely.
Okay, I am going to amend it to Coach O for this reason. Because I mean, if you had the Pope and Nick Saban in the same room, you know there's a joke coming here.
I'm waiting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to say it, but
go ahead, Paul. It's Christmas.
Yeah, I mean,
come on, Paul. You got to give it to us. Give the people what they want.
I mean, you know what the joke is, and I'm not going to say it. It's I don't want to. I would rather not be on the record making that much of a shot at Nick Saban.
Okay, well, and this brings me to sort of the point. I get to listen to your podcast, and they're really entertaining. This guy Larry and Legend. And,
oh yeah.
After all that has happened over the past couple of weeks and Bama's downfall, I'll say downfall.
Yeah.
Has this given you pause in reflecting upon your relations with the Bama Nation?
Well, listen, I love my friends in Alabama, and they have been very good to me. But one thing that people don't remember, though, is that I lived in Alabama for a long time, and it wasn't always like it is or was. I know I'm using a lot of past, future, and present tenses here, but before Saban got there, I was not the most popular man in the state. And we often tried to tell people that, but they wouldn't listen.
Yeah, I didn't know you before you went national, but you seem to me to be the kind of guy that's going to call it as you see it. Did you ever consider, though, some kind of mediation with your hardcore Bamarites?
No, because I don't. I mean, if I could just speak to you, I don't think they really want to listen to the truth.
So you didn't sign a prenup with them, right?
No. Yeah. I mean, the one thing I take Bama fans for better or worse. They don't feel the same way about me.
Well, I want to caution you that if you do get into an altercation with Larry, you will be charged with elder abuse. So
yeah,
I'm just giving you some advice.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really I challenged him to a boxing match, but I don't think that's fair to him. And I don't need the AARP. Of which I get a card every month, and I mean, I do not send them money, but yeah, I am. I'm a de facto member.
Well, I would say that if you get into a fight with him, you won't be able to knock out his teeth because you'll probably take him out before you get into the ring. But Paul, all the best, season's greetings, and really appreciate your show and be looking forward to it for the next couple of days.
Thanks,
for the
Augie.
big bowl season.
Great to have you on, and really fun. And listen. We're here to have fun today. I mean, I am not going to get into any spats. A guy called yesterday and said that I've been bordering on being Mr. Cranky Pants. I mean, I want to say I've worked very hard to be here today, so we can all have a good time. I do not want to be accused of being Mr. Cranky Pants. Daniel is in Texas.
Happy holidays, Paul.
Hey, Daniel. Thank you.
Hey, Paul, the last time I got a chance to visit with you, I know it was short-lived because you had the unbelievable show, and I referenced back to your visit to Tennessee, and you specifically were talking about your time at the student newspaper. In fact, I think you read one of your columns that you wrote.
Right.
And it really perked my interest in knowing that I think you kind of alluded to the fact that you had struggled a little bit as a student and trying to put it together, and I think that's the same condition that a lot of the students that work at the student newspapers these days are up against. And I just was calling on you today to help promote the university newspapers across the SEC. And specifically, I was hoping that you could use your influence with Mr. Tim Cook at Apple and perhaps where they could donate some electronics to those fine people.
Well, let me say this, and I have talked to, this is not a secret here, but I'm extremely interested in academia, and I've spoken to a couple of schools over the years about playing a role in some small way, and that's my interest, because when we had those students on from the University of Tennessee a couple of months ago, it really struck a nerve with me about where I came from, and I wouldn't be here without that experience in Knoxville. And I'm really concerned because of the ever-changing dynamics of journalism today, that students are not, they're getting great educations, but I'm not sure they're getting great experiences, if you follow me. And what I learned was real life experiences working at a school newspaper. You can't learn that using a bunch of high-tech equipment that prepares you for later in life. And that's a great idea, and I will mention that to Tim Cook when I see him next.
That's beautiful, Paul, and I want to wish you and Mrs. Finebaum happy holidays, and also to your staff there. There's some really great people.
Thank you very much, and we really we have an amazing staff here, and it's nice of them to show up today. Randy, thanks for being here. You're welcome. Mark, thanks for being here. Danny, the whole gang. Oh, Danny's not here.
Thank you, Danny.
I saw him earlier. He was sipping a little of the company eggnog, maybe a lot. We'll take a short break. Back with more. So we are back, and we will continue today, spending so much time reflecting back on the decade, which ends in about a week and a half. Mark, so interesting, just thinking about the great moments of the decade.
Yeah, we've gone through teams, and there's plays, but Paul, I want to ask you, what is your favorite memory in college football in the last decade?
Probably go down to Miami in early 2013. It was an important night for me because I met the heads of ESPN for the first time that night, and I was about to leave where I was to head here. That was part of it. It was exciting meeting the leadership team. But you know what the most exciting part of that night was?
What was that?
Watching Alabama beat Notre Dame by 28 points.
It always comes back to Notre Dame.
Right?
I was
Isn't
waiting
that
for it.
fun?
I was like,
Yeah.
how is he going to get there? I was waiting for you to get there.
I'm happy in that your favorate mememory of the decade at least includes Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That's.
I mean, I couldn't.
That says something.
Considering Jamari there, I couldn't very well pick the two second and 26. I wouldn't
Paul,
do that.
it's been a week of just remembering the times that
really
Georgia has
wasn't my
had.
favorite moment.
Yeah, was that your favorite play?
No, I mean, I listen. Probably the most dramatic thing I personally witnessed was at the very beginning of the decade when I was at Bryant-Denny Stadium on a cold, raw Friday afternoon.
Cam back.
To see Cam. I mean, that was just stunning to watch.
Yeah, I mean, and to sit there and have that's kind of the. I think when Auburn won that was the SEC just keeps winning everything. It was Florida, LSU, Alabama, and then you added Auburn in there,
into
right?
It, yeah.
I will
and
tell you
that's
another
really
one,
where
one of my favorite moments. So it was a Monday after the selection Sunday, and I met Commissioner Slide for lunch, and we sat down at our normal place, and I said, "Well, congratulations, Commissioner, you've won the national championship again." And he looked at me like, "What are you talking about?" And it took him a second, then he broke out into a laugh because LSU was playing Alabama.
that's great.
It's pretty good.
Anyway, welcome back. Glad you're all here. And Art is up next.
yes.
Art, thanks for the call. Good afternoon.
Yes, Paul. I'm sorry about missing you like that, buddy. And the other thing about it is, the jogging situation. When you first came into the picture, everybody started jogging. And Andrew Kilpatrick was one of the best athletes. And I think he's one of the first Alabamians, to knock it out of the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, he's an old friend of mine. We kind of grew up together at the Birmingham newspaper, and I miss seeing him.
He was truly a great man and a good neighbor. I hope he's doing well. And the thing about it is any God-fearing shark wouldn't ever take a bite at Boss Hogg, and I thought the guy was just spot on with Boss Hogg swimming in a pool of sharks. You know what I mean? See, I'm recovering, Paul Finebaum. You understand?
You're recovering, Paul Finebaum?
Yeah, yes, exactly. I don't accept any outside contributions either, and so that's what I said. You know.
And one
You
thing
said
I
the
never
same-
do, I have never been to a wine cave.
A wine cave?
Yeah.
Ooh.
You had to watch the
That's not-
debate last night to catch that joke, and obviously no one did.
No. I didn't catch it.
I caught it
That's
on the
great that
replay.
you went to a wine cave. But yeah, thanks a whole lot, Paul. You're always great. And
Hey,
I
listen,
sure
thank
do
you, Art.
Bye-bye.
Great to have you on. Art, always contributing. Steely Dan. Steely is next in Kentucky.
Yes, sir. I just want to tell you what a blessing you are, buddy. I
thank
discovered you about 6 months ago. I've been in the service, and I'm a retired police officer,
Oh, are you really?
and for 22 years, and I busted all them meth labs over the years. It burnt my lungs up, and I discovered your show about 6 months ago, and it's been a blessing to me.
Well, listen. First of all, what great work to be in law enforcement and for that long. And what was your branch of service when you were?
United States Marine Corps.
Wow, Semper Fi.
Yep, that.
In
you
my
just don't know
next
what
life,
blessing
I'm
you
going to
have
be a
in, and
Marine.
you just don't know. Sometimes I get excited when it going around here with this oxygen line. You know, some of them people calls in trying to put you down. But, buddy, you're a blessing to a lot of people out here.
Well, still, you don't have any idea what that means to all of us here. You take care of yourself and know one thing, that you've done great service to your community and in this country.
Well, one more thing. This is how the Lord works. I've been on life support 3 times, and I've been brought off of it. So I'll leave you with that note, and people ought to be thankful for every day they got in life.
Well, that is a great statement there, Steely. Thank you very much. You have a great holiday.
You too, sir. God bless you.
Thank you. I mean, listen. I don't know. Maybe it's the time of the year, and somebody told me today maybe we should act like we act now all during or throughout the year. But when you think about something like that, I mean, I have never had anything like that happen to me where I was about to check out. But maybe earlier today, I should say. But I mean, that's pretty amazing, isn't it, to be on life support 3 times and to come back? I mean, I think then you do appreciate the meaning of life, and I know so many of you do, but that's pretty remarkable when you think about it. Let's check out Ray in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's pretty remarkable to live in Fort
Paul,
Wayne,
that's
isn't
a
it?
beautiful story. I'm going to pray for that man. That's a beautiful story.
I hope so. Thank you.
Hey, Alabama, you think they're going to be ready to play the Bullies? You know, they remember the one that you got that they missed by an extra point, Brady, and they won beat you guys up there. You know, he thinks Auburn got a bunch of points, so he thinks he's going to get the same thing on you guys.
I think you're right.
So I hope you think they're going to be ready to play.
I think Alabama will be in good shape in that game, yes.
Yeah, I think they should win by 2 or 3, 4 touchdowns.
Is that what you're hoping, or is that what you think?
Well, that's what I'm hoping. I can't stand them much. You know, they're arrogant and they're prideful. You know, I wish somebody could keep humbling them because they need that. But anyways, Paul, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Okay?
Thank you so very much. Great to hear from you. Jerry is in Georgia. Hello, Jerry.
Yeah, Paul, this is first-time caller, a long-time listener.
Well, thank you very much.
I wanted to just pass on that this time last year I was in and out of the hospital for the entire football season up till day before Christmas. And the highlight of my day was Paul Finebaum show. And I attribute, my recovery to the Paul Finebaum show and you, and I just really appreciate you.
Oh my goodness! Well, Jerry, first of all, I'm assuming and I'm hoping that this Christmas is going to be better than last. But that is remarkable that you found some joy from this crazy show we do every day.
Yeah, I'm doing well now. I'm doing well. So You know,
I mean, I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
So, because and when you're down and you're struggling a little bit, I'm curious what you found from what we do here that helped you get through it.
Well, I guess
I'm going to take notes.
I guess as much as anything, it took my mind off my situation.
I see.
I was in kidney failure and facing.
Oh my goodness.
Had emergency dialysis and was facing long-term dialysis, but I was blessed that I didn't have to have that, and so I'm doing a lot better now.
Well, I'm extremely interested in the kidney situation. I mean, are you pretty stable right now?
I've been stable for the past 8 months.
Wow. I mean, I have friends who have gone through that with their parents and friends, and that is a very difficult thing to go through. For those who don't know what we're talking about here, it's extremely tough. Listen, I'm so proud and pleased to hear you doing well, and you have the greatest Christmas ever, and you've inspired me to quit complaining to everyone and try to enjoy life a little bit more.
Well, you too, Paul, and Merry Christmas to you and all your staff there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I tell you what, I'm going home right now because I've heard 2 or 3 calls that have given me some a new lease on life. Because you just forget sometimes when you're doing whatever you're doing that people out there are going through a much more difficult time than you. I mean, you know what, guys? I look at life being difficult just having to deal with Mark Kubiak every day. I mean, nothing personal, but he's a Notre Dame fan. We'll be right back. Much more to come. We'll get this show on the road. They've gotten a lot of conversation. Well, it started off pretty well, national championship, and a couple years later, Auburn nearly won another national championship. How about that? Imagine if they had. Shizik won the first. Malzahn nearly won the second.
People forget how good that Florida State Auburn game
last
was.
BCS ever, last BCS national championship game.
Auburn had the game won. I mean,
did.
I'll never get over that game.
Yeah. But to be fair, Auburn has had some of the greatest moments this decade.
Sure.
You know, I mean, like they've beaten Bama 4 times.
Yep, 10, 13, 17.
You know, and when you beat a team 4 times in the dynasty that Alabama's had, it speaks volumes to where you are, Paul. I mean, this is this is Auburn's most successful decade, right? I mean, you have the national championship, you have a Heisman Trophy winner,
another national championship appearance.
Well, they once beat Alabama 6 straight years.
Yeah, but Alabama wasn't good.
Yeah, no, but it's still pretty good. I mean, listen, Auburn's
there was a point in time when
What's that?
Auburn's had some really good teams.
They've had some great teams.
The 04 team, right? Went undefeated, didn't have a chance to
the
play for a
80s
title.
were pretty sweet for Auburn. They won the SEC 4 straight years.
Yeah.
Pat Dye.
That's true. That's fair. They just seem like to go hand in hand with what Alabama has done has been remarkable. I mean, nobody had a closer seat to it than you in the first part of the decade there. I mean, it's where the show basically blew up and exploded on, Paul. What was it like kind of covering that?
Well, if you go back to 2009, just think about it for a second. Alabama won in 09, Auburn in 10, Alabama in 11 and 12, and Auburn played for it and came within a play in 13. I mean, that run right there, it's unmatched.
And they also stopped Bama's three-peat, right?
Yeah.
The kick six stopped the three-peat.
Stopped the three-peat. We got to look at the
Mount Rushmore.
The Mount Rushmore.
As predicted. I mean, Cam has to be the first person here.
Yeah.
Cam's there.
We decided to go
Yeah.
Trey Mason,
Running
back, Heisman finalist, I believe, also. Nick
Wasn't
Fairley,
bad.
great defensive tackle.
Fairley
And
was
then,
amazing.
and then this year, I mean, it's kind of tough not to put Derek Brown on that. I mean, he might be one of the better defensive linemen we've had in the SEC this decade.
Yeah.
So, had to put him on there as well, Paul.
You agree with the top 4 there, Paul?
Listen, so many really good players, but you can't knock any of those off. Welcome back, Brandon Marcella joining us, who may have some thoughts on the all-decade team. Brandon, good afternoon, and nice of you to join us. So the staff here just took a wild swing, starting with Cam, which is a pretty good place to start. How would you break down the decade in terms of only 4 players?
Before I called here, I would have to go with Cam Newton, obviously, number one. I'd also put Derek Brown there, the defensive tackle who's on the team right now. First unanimous All-American Auburn's had since 1990. I'd have to go with running back Trey Mason, who broke Bo Jackson's
We got 3. We're 3 for 3
record.
so far.
Okay. That's good. So I'd have to go with him. And then fourth, I'd go with Chris Davis, the kick six hero.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I thought he had a solid career, but listen, I think one moment can define your entire life, and goodness gracious, what a moment that was. It's the best moment maybe in college football history as far as just one play and ending to a game, and why shouldn't it be on the Mount Rushmore?
Yeah. Sounds like you're going to do a mixtape for Nick Saban and put the penalty at the end of the game on as well. It is remarkable, Brandon, for all the teeth gnashing and angst that Auburn fans have displayed toward Malzahn and even toward Chiswick toward the end. It's still been it's an amazing and extraordinary decade.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, they went to 2 national championship games, won one of them, went to 3 SEC championship games, won 2 of them. They've won 10 games or more, 3 times, and they could potentially do it 4 times with a bowl win this year. And they've done it with this little asterisk next to it. They've done it during one of the most dominant decades in Alabama history, if not the most dominant, in the same state. So I think it's quite remarkable what Auburn was able to do in this past decade, winning a national title, winning a couple of SEC titles, and seemingly always in the mix. Well, I'd say every other year, potentially in the SEC West race. I think it's a pretty amazing feat, and the common denominator in all that has been Gus Malzahn, whether as an offensive coordinator or as the head coach.
Let me ask you about Malzahn, because now that this has calmed down, he's gone right back to where he always is after a win over Bama. But do you think maybe some Auburn fans, and give you credit, the night before the game you were still standing firm behind him being around. Do you think this will calm everyone down finally, or another up and down season next year, fans will be right back to where they were?
Yeah, I think what it does in the interim, and then going into the preseason for that matter, it gives them a lot of confidence because the schedule's a little bit easier despite what the back half of the schedule looks like. This is not going to be a schedule next year that was like this year where it was top 10 team, top 10 team, top 10 team, and doing so on the road. This year, next year is going to be a little bit different. You know, you trade Florida for Kentucky. You don't have to open the season against Oregon. You're playing North Carolina instead, which is going to be a good team, but not as good as obviously Oregon was this season. So fans are going to sit back and go, okay, we got all these pieces coming back on offense, lose something on defense, but they've built up a lot of depth there. They've been a consistently top 15 defense the last 4 years under Kevin Steele. Why shouldn't it continue? I think that they'll go in with some very healthy expectations. Now, the issue you go into is if you start losing a couple games you shouldn't. But this is kind of my feeling about the whole situation. I think, Gus Malzahn beating Alabama this year gave him 2 more years at least, unless he has a losing season next season, which he's never had in the college game. So I don't believe that'll happen next year. I think he'd have to completely lose a team for that to happen. So I think he'd be safe next year, even if they were to go 7-5 or whatever. And then obviously 2021 would be a huge year for him. But I think just that Iron Bowl win really bought him 2 years more on the Plains.
What did you sense, Brandon, from recruiting? And I ask that because it seemed like a really good recruiting year for Auburn, although nationally didn't get a lot of attention.
Yeah, listen, they've been pretty consistent getting top 10 classes other than last year. And this year, in the 24/7 Sports Composite, they're number 7. I think they're number 5 in the ESPN rankings nationally. The issue is it doesn't get a lot of attention because, 5 of the top 7 teams in the 24/7 Sports Composite are SEC teams. And Auburn, is in the middle of all that. So it doesn't look like it's fantastic in the scheme of things. But what it actually is when you look at it is when you got that many SEC teams in the top 10 or in the top 5, it's just like pick or choose which class is better, because it all comes down to not necessarily the greatest collection of talent. It's the greatest collection of talent in the positions of need that you need, and how those kind of go and filter through over the next few years. Do they mostly contribute next season, or is it 2 years down the road, or is it spread out over the 4 years? I think that a lot of that, I mean, it's very difficult to kind of really judge until you see when these guys get on the field, who they're working with. But that's why Auburn's been able to contend, every other year or so in the SEC West, because they've had top 10 classes, and they're in that big jumbled mess of top 10 classes among all the other elites in the SEC, and especially in the SEC West. But this class right here, number 7 in the nation, I think it might be by numbers is the second or third best of the Gus Malzahn tenure, and it could potentially get better, maybe get into the top 5 range in 24/7 Sports Composite when they have their second signing day in February, because I know they're really going after 5-star offensive tackle Broderick Jones, who's currently a Georgia commitment.
Yeah, let me ask you in relation to recruiting wars. I mean, it used to be, back in the day, Alabama, Auburn were always in battle for the same guys. But does Auburn see Georgia more? Do they see Alabama? Or because of the broad spectrum of recruiting now, you pretty much see everyone?
I think it's more Georgia now. Auburn's really made its home in recruiting outside of the state of Alabama, in the Atlanta area, in North Georgia. And they're competing against Georgia for a lot of those guys, and most of those guys are defensive linemen. And more often than not, Rodney Garner, Auburn's defensive line coach, has won those battles. And then that's why, look at Derek Brown. He's from Georgia, just an amazing talent, unanimous All-American. He's brought in a lot of players out of Georgia's backyard into Auburn, and not only are they great players, obviously, and he's beating Georgia for them, but it's like added an extra oomph to things when they get into the Georgia game in these years that they've gone on to win the SEC title or go compete for the SEC championship game. Those Georgia kids have big games against Georgia and leads them to victory back in 2017 and 2013. So I think that they're recruiting right now. Obviously, they go head-to-head with Alabama on several kids every year, but I think it's become more of an Auburn-Georgia battle, especially late in the process, than it has maybe in recent memory, even the last decade. Florida's a little bit more involved, but man, I think their top recruiting battles are always seemingly against Georgia.
Is it that Alabama just produces a limited number of top flight players, or is it just that Georgia is a more fertile ground?
I think what's happened is, one, Alabama's not starting, but they're recruiting more nationally now, as we all know. Which isn't necessarily something new, but if you look at the top prospects in Alabama, there's probably about 14 to 15 every year that maybe Alabama and Auburn would consider. Doesn't mean they all get offers. And Alabama and Auburn usually just split those guys, and they get kind of who they want. Every couple of years, there's a late, battle between the two for one player. For example, like Javion Cohen, the offensive lineman, who picked Alabama last week, and there was a lot of controversy about whether Auburn pulled his offer and whether he was stringing along Auburn to make it look like he was considering Auburn, even though he was going to sign with Alabama all along, and just wanted to pull the Alabama hat out over the Auburn hat on signing day. There's something like that every couple of years, but I don't think the recruiting battles are as intense as they used to be, especially in South Alabama. Not to get too much in the weeds, but South Alabama is always a hot recruiting bed for Alabama, especially the Mobile area. And Auburn had a tough time getting into there. And they've done a better job here the last 4 or 5 years, Auburn has, of getting in there. And it's kind of split things between Alabama and Auburn. They're both getting guys. And now Alabama's going more national, and Auburn's fighting Georgia for more recruits in Georgia. So the intensity is not quite as there as it used to be, maybe day to day on the recruiting trail.
Brandon, quick thought before you go on the bowl game. Are we going to see a lot of enthusiasm in fans, or is it just kind of like ho-hum?
I don't know about the fans, but I'll tell you what, talking to the players this week, they are really excited and really pumped. And I think it's because of all the seniors, especially Derek Brown, Marlon Davidson, Daniel Thomas, Jeremiah Denson. they all decided to play in this game. They made no bones about it. They said, we want to go out one last time. We want to dominate this team. I think the team's really excited for this game. I don't know about the fans, but I don't think there's any question in my mind that this team's not going to show up, so to speak. Maybe as some other Auburn teams, maybe we're kind of ho-hum about things. But I think this team's really, really pumped up to go into that game. Try to win a 10th game, but also this is the last time a lot of these great, amazing seniors they have are going to play together. And I think they're going to try and go out, not just on top, but maybe try to beat Minnesota by, a couple touchdowns and make it put an exclamation point on their careers.
Great to have you on. Great talking to you. We'll talk to you very soon, Brandon. Have a Merry Christmas.
All right, you too, Paul. Happy holidays, everybody.
You got it. Great stuff. Brandon Marcello, our go-to man on the Plains. Let's take a break. More to come. More of your phone calls at 855-242-7285. Messaging coming out of Auburn, guys, as we have reflected back on the past and looking ahead this week.
I think, like he said, the momentum they got from beating Saban in that Iron Bowl, it kind of has to carry over till next year, right? Bo Nix looked great. That team put up 48 against Bama. Like that, it has to kind of help. It helped recruiting, clearly, I think. That's why they had a top 5 recruiting class.
And they got a good bowl game. I mean, they should roll over Minnesota's a good team, but if they're really, if Auburn is going to take that next step, they should be able to do to Minnesota what they did to Purdue last year.
I think
be fun.
The SEC becomes very interesting next season. Let's just say that Tua does leave, right? Let's say that maybe Jake Fromm leaves also. Burrow's left. Auburn is the only team, that top teams, that kind of return their quarterback along with A&M, assuming that Kellen Mond stays. Maybe Auburn's in the mix for the SEC next season.
Let's look at the Auburn great plays or great games they've had
for some reason. They
because it's
also
easy.
Involve Georgia, but let's just go ahead and get these going.
First is the comeback, Paul. We were talking about it. One of the best.
All-timer.
Yeah.
Classic game.
The national championship game.
Dyer's knee was not down.
Which is such the strangest call.
Yeah. Led to this.
Well, don't forget, Cam tried to run it over on the play before against the wishes of Gene Chizik.
Yeah. This one would have been probably the play of the year.
Prayer and Jordan Hare. Just bat the ball
to
down.
catch that,
was a great play.
And then this
that
year.
was actually a more difficult play than the kick six.
Yeah.
It was.
But
speaking of which.
This is still the play of the decade.
.56-yarder, no, does not have the leg.
The ball was in the air, coming toward you. What was in your mind? Catch it and run.
He'll run it out to the 10, 15. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. They're not going to keep him off the field tonight.
It's a rivalry game, and glad it worked out in our favor.
First time I've ever lost a game that way. First time I've ever seen a game lost that way.
No. Shot of Saban. 3-peat down the drain. Auburn wins the game and gets to play for the national championship. Welcome back. Glad you're here. And Carl is up next in Alabama. Hello, Carl.
Hey, how you?
I'm well, thank you.
I just wanted to wish you and yours a happy holiday.
Thank you.
And tell you that I've followed you since you were writing articles for the Post-Herald. That was quite a while ago.
Yes, it was.
And I think your article came out on Thursday.
Well, originally it came out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Thursday was not one of my days.
All
Doesn't matter.
But I'd always stop and buy a paper. I think you kept that thing alive.
Yeah, people always told me that, Carl, that if you were not there, the newspaper would go under. And ultimately, I did leave the newspaper, and sadly, it went under.
I know it. Skarbinski couldn't carry the water.
I don't think it was my fault. I think the damage was done, but I was not there at the end.
Yeah. If you remember, I called you. You were hosting a show out of Miami years ago, and I called and talked to you and asked you if you were going to change employers, and
right.
I asked you if we would hear from the same acerbic, caustic Finebaum of old, and you said probably not.
Yeah, no, Carl. There's been a great debate about the softening of Paul Finebaum, if I could talk about myself in third person. But I think some of that comes from age. I mean, I started in my 20s, and I don't think I have quite the vitriol that I once did. I realized that you can be nice now and then to people, and back then I didn't believe in that. I just didn't understand the idea of, there's something good going on.
Yeah. Well, I've even seen detected a little softening on our sociopath from Tuscaloosa.
Carl, I'd have to get you to describe that, because he, to me, there are moments of decency, because I think he's deep down a pretty good guy, but when he goes into the outer reigns or rungs of craziness, he is off the charts.
But I enjoy him a lot.
Well, he's more interested in politics right now. He got himself. He wrapped himself up with the Trump campaign a couple of years ago, and so everything that happens to the president, he is personally invested in.
Well, his cup runneth over.
Yeah, no, he's listen. If you follow the president as your obsession in life, you've had a busy 3 or 4 years.
Absolutely.
Busy 3 or 4 days.
No. Well, happy holiday to you.
Well, Carl, thank you. I'm just especially gratified that there are a few people that remember my initial career.
Well, you need to get back to Birmingham and stop all this traveling to New York City and all that cold weather and everything. And
now, Carl, I got to admonish you. I hear that every night when I go home. Now I hear it during the afternoon.
Well, it's true.
My wife has told me that a few times.
Well,
she's from Birmingham, of course, and her family's there.
The truth will set you free.
Well, thank you very much, Carl. Appreciate that.
Okay, have a good one.
Man, that was kind of can't get away from that that nagging. When are we going back to Birmingham? I said, just calm down. We'll get there eventually. we gotta fire a few more coaches. Mike is up next in Georgia. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Paul. I've never been to a wine cave either, but I heard that Larry from Shelby has got a pretty nice Bud Light cave. And
yeah, he does.
I would wager that it's true.
But not only does he have a Bud Light cave, which he's got a 12-inch Emerson TV in there, black and white, from Sears and Roebuck in 1958.
I can't
got 3
believe
channels.
I can't believe it. 3 channels. Paul, I'm a little nervous today. My 12-year-old son is down in South Georgia. He's being supervised real well, but he's actually out hunting black bears. So I'm a little bit on edge. So
I don't blame
your show
you.
is giving me some comedy and relief.
Well, that has to be pretty nerve-wracking.
Well, it is nerve-wracking. Again, he's in good hands, and he's quite the outdoorsman and hunter. So anyway, I'm sure it'll all be good, but it does put you a little bit on edge. Paul, can I ask you on a football question, if you had time?
Sure.
You mentioned, kind of with a twinkle in your eye a few weeks ago, that when the time came, that you might give us a little bit more insight on that time period when it was, more or less announced that Vince Dooley was leaving Georgia and going to coach at Auburn.
I will.
And
yeah, Mike, I have to go to a break here, but I tell you what, that's a
more done.
What stands out to me, this is a high character group. You look at their GPAs, you can tell that their future is important to them, even outside of football, and that's what we're looking for, and that's the way we're building this thing. So very excited about this class, and like I said, there could be a few more before it's all said and done. Really big. We signed 4, and really felt like we needed to. Like we said, we wanted to get a little longer, and we did that. Like I said, Colby Hudson's very unique from the standpoint that he can play quarterback too. So, you could see him, possibly even take some snaps there at times, whether it's wildcat or just package type deal. But, all 4 of those guys are playmakers. They're very good with the ball in their hands, and like I said, we're excited. And I know Bo Nix is excited that we got all 4 of them too. It's real, and it's not just recruits, it's players, current players all around the country. Everything is more magnified than it ever has been. You know, we choose to build this thing with talent, with character, and then, like I said, I think it's important that when you recruit, you're recruiting families too, families that fit, you know, fit the philosophy and fit Auburn. And so, you know, that's what we've done, and this year has been one of our best classes with all that, and I think that'll help in the future too. And like I said, this day in college football, it's different. It's the college football day of the portal, where there's a lot of changes and all that. And so we're trying to, you know, really be specific on you know what we're looking for as a recruit. I mean, there's other guys that we could have had that probably could have helped the recruiting rankings and all that, but we're very specific, and we're very blessed to get this type of a class, not just from a talent standpoint, but from a character standpoint. We felt like we had to have a few guys that we felt that were ready to play, and that's why we signed the 2 junior college guys when we could also take another grad transfer possibly too if an opportunity presented itself. And then we wanted some guys that you know could build this thing, and we have the freshmen. We think all 3 you know, are excellent players, and you know, 2 of them are going to get here early, which I think is important, and just kind of building that offensive line depth for the future. You can't have enough depth at the running back position in our league, and you've seen that throughout the years. But you know, we're building this thing the right way. Coach Cadillac is doing a real good job. You know, a lot of those running backs are pretty versatile too. So, you know, there could be times you could see 2 running backs on the field at the same time.
All right. And we are off and running here. Glad you're here for the second hour. We're 2 hours away from one of seemingly everyone's favorite moment of the year, when Archbishop Marino will come for his Christmas message, and certainly we would like to talk to for you to talk to him. Somebody just made a great point, though. All these Mount Rushmores, when do we do the Mount Rushmore of Finebaum callers? Is that on the last day of the show? I don't know. Maybe too early for that yet. Lee is in Seattle. Hello, Lee. Nice of you to call.
It's nice to talk to you again. Wanted to wish you and your wife, family, and everybody there happy holidays.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to jump on the bandwagon of thanking you. I too am a retired civil servant, firefighter, who has also been on life support at one time in my life. And you have brought, you asked the other caller what, we see in the show, at least what I do, is just, it's a respite from the rest of the stuff going on out there. It's nice, for the most part, just to be able to listen to and talk about sports. You can get all the other garbage everywhere else. But, here it's kind of a really nice distraction to know that, it's about sports and shouldn't be about anything else. So
well, that's wonderful.
I do thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I also called last year and spoke with Monsignor.
Oh, I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm just hoping for a better decade. I can't say a whole lot has changed as far as what I spoke to him about last year, but this particular decade didn't go very well, and so I'm really hoping that next year's decade does go better.
Well, listen, Lee, I hate to hear that, but I also appreciate your optimism about the future. That's one thing about this time of the year. In the middle of March, it's hard to be upbeat and optimistic about everything, but I do find this time of the year it is a time of reflection a little bit, and I'm glad you feel that way.
I mean, I have to feel that way, or I don't know honestly where I'd be. I just wanted to also say something really quickly regarding Larry. When I went through my last of several surgeries, because I had started drinking and streaking really heavily I had kind of a huge pity party for myself when I got hurt, and I realized I could no longer do my job, which I loved. And I had failed to tell the doctors that I had been drinking as much as I had, and went to go home, and I stopped breathing, and I went into arrest, and I was on life support in a coma for a week. And why I say this is, I hear with Larry kind of the ramblings of somebody who drinks too much, and it kind of worries me. And one of the first things I think you learn if you have really good friends is don't drink and dial, because it's really not a good idea. But I really hope that Larry gets his stuff together and stops drinking so much, because it's apparent that he's pretty proud of it. But I just would hate for him to go through what I did. And so that's what I wanted to say to Larry and, to everybody. And I miss it, believe me. I miss drinking every day, but I don't miss the hangovers and everything that came with it. And I'm now 10 years sober, thank goodness. And like I said, look forward to the next.
Well, I'll tell you what, Lee, I am among the blessed ones who have never had to wean myself off of something, but I can assure you I've seen it very firsthand with family members, with relatives and friends, and I'm really proud that you were able to say what you just got through saying. That's an accomplishment, and be well.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Iman is up next. Good afternoon, Iman.
Good afternoon, Paul. What a great call.
Well, it was.
And I'm like you. For whatever reason, the time that you and I grew up, and that Zippo lighter represents that.
Yeah,
because it was mine. It was everything changed, and it's amazing that myself, like you, I was able to grow up during all of these times and not have some of those issues. And I'm not sure why I didn't, other than I was looking for something bigger, I guess. Not to diminish anybody else's thoughts or visions, but there were so many things that I ran into that wasn't it. And I kind of identified that, and I kept moving past it. Paul, so much goodwill in the air, this time of year, every year. And I got this burden on my heart, and I need to share it. And if there's anything we could do to take back the heavy burden that lays on the backs of the Bama fans during these holidays, and the entire team and staff and all the fans, but especially the Bama callers that call in this program. I know it's going to be hard. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be dark. It's going to be dreary. But little brother's got his eye looking out for you. And there ain't nothing we can't take it away. We all got to live with the results. And if you're battered and bruised and tattered and torn, it's just too damn bad. Ward Damn Eagle. Paul, Merry Christmas, and you have a great weekend.
Greg is up next. Hello, Greg.
Hey, Paul. Merry Christmas to you and the staff. I've heard people calling and talking about Larry and Legend and some others, and for every Bama fan that calls you and is full of hyperbole, there are those who are a little more rational and get through the season no matter what happens. And those calls that they've made over the course of your radio show and then now this show that have built them up also come at a cost, because when everything you say is based on hyperbole or bravado and it falls apart at some point, as it always, as it does throughout time, you have nothing to stand on. And so the callers that people are used to hearing don't call anymore. They call very sparingly, and when they do, it's from a position of perceived hurt or offense that you have caused them. And I think that those people are going by the wayside, and your show now has evolved and is built on other callers They don't just encompass Alabama, but it's a nationwide show, and you've got callers from every state, Paul. And so I think those who have built their so-called reputations on calling your radio show in Birmingham feel outcast and probably a little lonelier at this time of year. Would you agree with that?
Listen, I don't know. And the one thing that I am proud of in terms of what we had was it was very special. And it was different, but you know, people have only one person to blame, Greg, and that's me. I made a decision that was not easy, but I felt like it was in the best interest of my own career and my family and really the vision I always had for that program. That program changed the moment that it expanded beyond that local base. And you know, you may not have remember some of it, maybe you've clearly heard about it, but once we got outside of the state, it became a different show. And I get it, but you know, I think when you consider that this is now 10 years in the making, we're pretty close. We're not that far from where we started. I mean, it's been a balancing act trying to please an audience and also please our bosses.
Well, I can only speak for myself. I am just happy and privileged every time I get to have a conversation with you. And that's not, you know, based on some form of idle worship or, you know, being a sycophant. It's that we get to have a conversation, and we've got to spend time together, as you know, share with people before outside of the show.
Now, for those who don't know, a couple of months ago I was in Alabama, and Greg picked me up at the airport, and we had an incredible afternoon and evening together that I cherish. And I was fascinated by some of the things you told me about your own life and your own career and your own experiences. And it was, I wish those opportunities came around more often.
Well, you know, when I had seen you in Huntsville prior to that, you know, I was sitting there thinking, I said, you know, everybody thinks this guy lives a real lavish life that he's catered to, and you're not. You know, you were there and you had a driver at the Huntsville Museum of Art, you know, when you went to give a talk about SEC football. And I had asked you, you know, how you got here, and you said some guy picked me up. And
yeah, well,
the head
of the museum picked me up.
Right. So I just said, you know, I said, well, why couldn't I do that? You know, and you can have a conversation with someone that you've talked to before and have met before, and so it worked out. But what I like about the show is that there are divergent callers, and you know, the show that started in the 80s wasn't the same show that ventured into 2000. And when you took your show into syndication, I'm sure it changed somewhat. And so I don't, you know, I met Larry and some of the other callers, and I appreciate what they brought at that point in time. But those times have moved on, and they have a choice to be a part of the show as it is or not to be. And so, you know me, Paul, I have called you the day after Clemson slaughtered Alabama, just like I called you the day after Alabama beat Clemson. You know, games don't move me in that direction, and that doesn't move the needle on radio, but I maintain my integrity every day I call, and so I appreciate the opportunity that you give to us. And this show, unfortunately, won't last forever because time, you know, moves on for all of us. But people should accept it for what it is and embrace it, just like those callers who call in and have the show to hang on to when they're dealing with some physical or emotional issues that we don't all have to deal with on a regular basis because, you know, fortune is fleeting. And for every day that we have that we're blessed and thankful, there are days where, you know, we have to really struggle. And everybody's faced their own struggles through time. You know, when I was 22, I was on the sail of a submarine. We were going through a hurricane, and I got washed overboard. And if it wasn't for a safety harness, I'd have been lost forever. You know, before I ever had children or got married or you know, got to see my parents again. And your life passes before you in those kind of moments, and I was telling a story at church about that, and this guy said, well, what were you thinking about? I said, I was just praying to God to let me see another day. So at the end of the night, that's what I pray with my wife, that God gives us another day, because that's all we have in front of us. So I appreciate you as a friend, first and foremost, and then the show. And so people can call it what they want, but it is a valuable piece of entertainment and education that I, for one, am grateful for. So I hope that you take this show as far as it will go, as long as you want to, and I will always support you in whatever endeavor you choose, as a friend first and as a listener second, Paul.
Greg, many thanks. For Merry Christmas to you and Mona, and we will be right back. Much more to come, including Andy Staples.
I've been learning new things every day. I've been, not rushing it, just taking my time, adjusting to things, and life has been good. I'm living my dreams. I'm happy every day.
Well, you should be, and you have one of the most unique and respected head coaches in the industry. What's it like to play for Coach Tomlin?
Oh man, outstanding coach. He, I can tell that he truly cares about how I develop as me being a rookie right now, on and off the field. Gives great tips. A great coach. He has a different way of understanding players and their personalities, and where they came from. So, great coach.
And that is one of the storied franchises in NFL history, so I know it has to be a very interesting experience. I also know that when you play on a team like the Steelers or any other NFL team, you're so consumed with what you're doing, preparing for the next game. But I know you, and I have a feeling you've kept up with the Wildcats pretty closely.
And that's correct. I'm ride or die by my Wildcat.
As you look down the final 2 or 3 weeks of the season, what's on your mind? I mean, how do you see it ending?
I don't want to predict the future or nothing, but I'm always going to ride.
You feel pretty good about it?
I always ride for my team. So we're looking to finish these last 2 games out with a win, and we're going to see what presents itself after that.
And when the season finally ends, and I know you're not in a hurry to see it end, what will you do?
I'll either be going to the Super Bowl with my team, or I'll be, or I'll be getting ready for the next season in preparation.
So, in other words, the NFL really never ends, does it?
It really never ends. But this is what I wanted since I was a little boy. I wanted this. I wanted to be able to set an example for kids, be able to live my dream on national TV. So it never ends. This is my life. I'm happy.
What's it like, though, Benny? And I apologize for keeping you so long, but when you see young kids who want to talk to you, I mean, it's one thing to be a college football player, and you were as big a star as you could be at Kentucky, but now you're an NFL player. You're playing for an iconic franchise. That has to make you feel good when little kids stop you and either want your autograph, your picture, or ask you how they can get where you are.
Most definitely. I take it as a blessing. I take it as a blessing. I'm able to help kids with the mistakes that I made. I'm able to, lead them in the right way.
Welcome back. We are here and certainly looking forward to our next guest, one of the premier sports observers in college football in the country, Andy Staples, joining us here at the Christmas season. And always good to have you on, Andy. Andy, you're known for so many things, but you're also known for your culinary prowess. So what's your go-to on Christmas Day?
Well, I make a leg of lamb where I take a knife, make some slits in the lamb, you cut up some garlic, you stuff the garlic in there, and you slather it up with oil, and then salt, pepper, rosemary, and you throw it on the grill. And it is fantastic. And I also make my grandmother's chocolate chip cookies, which are the best on earth.
Yeah, we obsess over Thanksgiving and so many other holidays, but Christmas is a little bit open, isn't it, in terms of what people eat?
You can do anything. We've done the Italian dinner. We've done the traditional turkey. We've done ham. It is open, and I like that. It's not tied down to one, fairly tasteless bird. You've got a lot going on there.
Talking to Andy Staples, the Andy Staples Show podcast. By the way, I was speaking of podcasts. I was really struck this week. We had Spurrier on, and he tried to promote his podcast about 17 times.
Well, I mean, listen, He's got a little NASCAR driver in him. He's got a restaurant too. I don't know if you know about that.
I
He
did
probably
not.
slipped that in 20 times. It's under construction, so when that sucker
Okay.
opens, he's going to be plugging it on your shelf.
What's the food look like? Just normal.
American fare. I don't. He held a draft to see what chef he would work with. So I don't even know if he's picked the chef yet. But
Can you imagine Spurrier walking in and giving orders?
I can. I've seen it before, Paul. I've seen it in action. And the chef will be his quarterback, so that will be the person that he drives the most crazy. Now, the kitchen staff, like the offensive line, will love Steve Spurrier because, he's not going to yell at you. He's going to yell at the quarterbacks and the receivers. That's who he's going to be on constantly. So, yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see him screaming at somebody like Gordon Ramsay about risotto. Get that. I need James Bates on here to do the Spurrier. My Spurrier's terrible.
No, it's Urban has a restaurant. Spurrier has a restaurant. Saban has a car dealership. I mean, what's next?
Will Muschamp with a restaurant? I'm
okay,
waiting
let
for
me
that.
ask you this. If Sam Pittman went into business, what kind of business would he operate?
Construction. I know this because if you listen to the Andy Staples show on Monday, there's my plug. I'm not going to hit it as many times as Spurrier did, but a really good interview with Sam Pittman, and he put himself through college roofing. And his dad taught him to hang drywall, and he can do everything. And that caused him to get hit up by some of his friends. One of his friends in particular, a man named Rex Ryan, who I'm sure everybody knows, decided to design this monster fort for his kids when he worked for the Baltimore Ravens. But he's not very handy. So he called Sam Pittman and said, hey, come on down. We'll go to an Orioles game. We'll do all this. And oh, by the way, can you build this fort for my kids, which was bigger than Sam Pittman's house at the time.
Okay, so we have Sam Pittman at Arkansas, Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, Kiffin at Ole Miss. I know which one you're most excited about, but what about these hires in the SEC so far?
I'm interested in, Pittman, I think Arkansas may have lucked into the best possible choice in a situation where I think probably some of their first choices were saying, you know what, I don't know if I want to get into this situation. I think Pittman's going to wind up being kind of a steadying force for them, and they're going to have a good offensive line, which is a great place to start. I don't know what happens next, but one thing I was struck by talking to him was he's not married to a certain style of offense, and certainly not married to what he calls bully ball, which is what they played when he was there with Brett Bielema. He wants to open things up and be a little more forward-thinking on offense. Eli Drinkwitz, we know, is going to be forward-thinking on offense. I think Eli inherits probably the best situation. That team defensively was very good this year. When Kelly Bryant got hurt, the offense kind of stalled a little bit. But I do feel like they have a pretty good base there, and they're in the East, so it's a little bit easier. So I think you're going to see some improvement from them, though I do think you probably see the most improvement from Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin because he can get that offense going. This is their second full year with a full complement of scholarship, so I think that'll help them depth-wise on the defense. So I think you're going to see improvement from all three of those teams. I just think Ole Miss probably has the most room for improvement right there.
Let's get to the games that really do matter this year. Of course, LSU taking on Oklahoma. Oklahoma's lost a couple of key players due to suspension. We think Allaire will be out. Nobody has confirmed it. Coach O is still working on that to disseminate to the media, but we're a week and a day away from that game.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma probably suffered the worst loss if you're trying to figure out who's in worse shape after this news. They lose their best pass rusher. They also lose some depth at running back. If something were to happen to Kennedy Brooks, then probably Jalen Hurts is your running game, and it's great when Jalen Hurts can play off of Kennedy Brooks because that makes it very hard to figure out who has the ball, and also they can throw it to CeeDee Lamb and some of those really good receivers. But if they're limited at the running back position, it's going to limit what Jalen Hurts can do too. I think LSU was already probably going to win this game, but I think now this gives them probably a lot better chance to win it. The Edwards-Helaire thing, the one thing I would worry about is when you lose a veteran back like that, it hurts in pass protection. But again, with Oklahoma losing its best pass rusher, that's not as big of a deal. And also, I think we've seen that Joe Burrow kind of has eyes in the back of his head. He seems to really have a knack for sensing pressure and getting away.
Talking to Andy Staples about the upcoming bowl season, the other game that day, or that night, I should say, Clemson and Ohio State. Seems like most of the pundits have gone with Clemson. What about you?
I have no idea. I'll be honest with you, Paul. It's a coin flip to me because I don't know where Clemson is relative to Ohio State and LSU and Oklahoma because Clemson's schedule just didn't really cooperate. Listen, they tried. They scheduled Texas A&M. Texas A&M didn't wind up being all that good. The rest of the ACC didn't hold up its end of the bargain, so we've not really seen Clemson get challenged. We don't know what they'll look like against those teams. My guess is they'll look very good. And I was thinking about this in terms of the position groups that Ohio State players have seen. Like Ohio State's defensive backs have not played receivers like this. They played some good ones against Michigan, but nothing like T. Higgins and Justin Ross. They haven't played a quarterback like this. So there's a chance Clemson's the best of this bunch, that they're better than all of them. We just don't know that yet, and that's the problem. Ohio State looks very complete. You know, they got a great quarterback, great running backs, deep receiving core, maybe the best pass rusher in the country, great secondary. So that's the part I can't figure out is how good is Clemson? Because until we know how good they are, it's really hard to judge everybody else.
Andy, a couple of other bowl games are of interest. A lot of bowl games are of interest, but I'm really intrigued by your thoughts on Alabama coming off of a pretty bad end of the season, even by Alabama standards, by everyone else's standards, pretty good. The Michigan matchup, figure that one out for us.
Yeah, it's weird. I kind of want to know who's going to play and what it's going to look like. But I do get the sense with Alabama, especially defensively, this is a chance for those guys to really establish themselves in their roles. They've been so young in defense all year. They've kind of taken their lumps. My feeling is they're going to be better next year. Maybe we see that now. I think back to 2010. That was they lost 3 games. They lost to South Carolina, Les Miles ate grass, and they lost to LSU, and then they had the comeback that they lost. And they just annihilated a very good Michigan State team that had Kirk Cousins and had gone 11-1. I could see something like that happening if Alabama guys are really locked in. And, historically we've seen, that Sugar Bowl against Utah, the game against Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl, games where they did not get up for that sort of thing after not making what they wanted to make. But this team, as young as it is, Tua's not able to play. Mac Jones wants to make his mark. I kind of think they're going to be engaged for this one. And I don't know if that's a good thing for Michigan. Yeah,
and if Michigan loses, the Michigan fans just say, hey, listen, we're not as good as them. Congratulations. Let's go get our participation trophy.
You and Harbaugh, man, you're just trying to twist the knife on Harbaugh. Listen, I don't know where Michigan fans are at on this. I wrote this after the Ohio State game because I do wonder, are they frustrated that they're not in that echelon? Because they aren't. And I think most Michigan fans would admit that. Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, LSU, Georgia, Oklahoma, those teams are on a different level than Michigan. They recruit at a different level, and it's really up to Michigan to decide, do you want to be there? Because I'm not sure Ohio State and Michigan are really crossing each other much for recruits. I think Ohio State's seeing more of Clemson and more of Georgia and more of Alabama when they're trying to recruit guys, and that's a problem for Michigan. You're not going to beat them unless every once in a while you beat them for a recruit.
What about Georgia? In a couple of seconds left. I mean, do you feel like, kind of a weird ending to the year? Does the Sugar Bowl matter?
It's going to matter for everybody, and I want to know what happens with Jake Fromm. What does he do? Because if I'm Jake Fromm and the offense is going to be exactly the same next year, I look at the quarterbacks in the NFL draft and say, you know what? Beyond Joe Burrow, beyond Justin Herbert, I don't know who everybody's taking, so I'm going to go wow them on the board. But if they come to me and say, listen, we're going to do something like LSU did and build an offense around you that takes advantage of the things you do well, I'm going to say, hey, I'm coming back because I'm going to be a first-round pick, high first-round pick next year. So that's what I want to find out. What are they going to do with their offense? I'm less interested in the Sugar Bowl than what happens off the field.
Thank you very much, Andy. Merry Christmas. Can't wait to get a report on your lunch.
Merry Christmas, Paul.
Thank you. Meanwhile, there's a bowl game going on. Buffalo over Charlotte, 24-6 in the Makers Wanted Bahama Bowl. We'll take a short break. Back with much more. So, best players never to win the Heisman
This decade.
Yeah,
Thought everybody picked up
I
on
want to
that.
mention this. That we're getting a lot of tweets from people saying, how could you leave Bo Jackson off the Auburn team? We are barely smart enough to know that Bo Jackson deserves it. We're talking about the last decade, please, people.
Yeah.
Also, a decade, just so people
Let's
didn't
bring
know.
this down for a second, really break down the decade thing, Paul.
Quick lesson here. A decade starts
When
with
does a decade really end, though?
with the year that ends with 9. That's what the end of the decade.
Right.
But how many years is that? That's
10.
0. Yeah, okay.
10.
So I guess
0,
the question
1, 2, 3. I got it.
Yep.
The question is,
Didn't-
did
I didn't
anybody
measure.
celebrate the new Y2K on December 31st, 2000?
No. By the way, 20 years ago, we were all.
We were just talking about that in the
We
control
were.
room.
There was a lot of people who don't remember
My
it.
wife's grandmother went out and bought like 500 cans of tomato rice soup.
My mom went out and bought a couple gallons of water and egg noodles. That was going to hold us over
We had
for a
to
long
stay
time.
away
but-
from the TVs in my house just in case they exploded.
Oh, Y2K was a big thing.
That was a really big deal.
Paul, what did you do? Did you,
I just watched TV all night, just watching the news
waiting to see if
come
it'd
in
be on?
from Beijing and all parts west.
That might have been one of the biggest hoaxes that for some reason we just believed
Well, there's
in,
been
right?
according to some people, there's been a bigger hoax lately.
That's right. But
Some
the,
day of
the
mourning
most
for people.
anticlimactic buildup, for almost 2 years, it was
a big deal.
Hey, by the way, we're not sure if computers, power grids, planes are going to
going
drop
to
out of
work,
the air,
right.
phones aren't going to work.
Now
mass
we're just
hysteria.
looking to see if Nick
Now
Saban's
we
going to
go
another national
crazy if
title,
we
right?
lose Wi-Fi for like 20 seconds.
Oh, truth.
It's tough.
It's true. But that could, it's funny because something like that could never happen now.
Yeah, there's too much internet to believe something that false, right?
You'd think.
You hope so. Maybe.
Paul, is that true? Is there enough internet to believe false claims?
There's a lot of false claims out there.
A lot of hoaxes.
A lot of setups. Welcome back. We are glad you are here, and let's check in with Ed in South Carolina. Hello, Ed.
Hey, Paul. How you doing, man? It's a beautiful day in Little River.
Glad to hear.
My golf game sucked today. But that's all right, though.
Well,
That's life,
December golf games are probably never going to be great unless you
No,
live
they're
in
not.
Palm Beach.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Hey, I want to make a statement and hope I'm doing this the right way, okay? I'm 76 years old, okay? And I have never seen a show like yours. The whole day, not whole day, but can't wait till 3 o'clock in the afternoon to watch your show.
Well, thank you.
You bring so much joy, or whatever the right words are, to me personally. I think a lot of people feel this way too, And I just want to tell you how much we appreciate what you do.
Well, I can't tell you how much that means to everyone that's here because, listen, some days, and I think the real reality show would be behind the scenes on this show, what all of us talk about when the lights and cameras aren't on, and I think sometimes you just don't think about some of the things that you've said. We're dealing with management. And middle-level management and people that I'm sure have our best interest at heart.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't really get that feeling. But when you hear from callers like you and others, it makes us want to fight another day with those people I just mentioned.
Well, good. Don't give up. And someday, boy, we disagree with you a lot. Not a lot, but we disagree sometimes. But that's good. That's what.
Well, I think that's what's great, though. And I can't tell you how many times I've said something, and somebody like you will call in, and I'll go, you know what? Maybe I should rethink that.
No, don't rethink it. You have the best show on TV, and it gives us something to think about for tomorrow. What we're going to do tomorrow, And at 3 o'clock, it's Finebaum show. Okay?
Right.
I can do nothing till 7 o'clock. So you know what I mean. And I just want you to know that how much many of us appreciate what you do.
Well, Ed, thank you for saying that. It was great to see you when we met in Columbia. I believe it was last year.
That wasn't me. I'm the different Ed.
Oh,
That
you're the
wasn't
different
me.
Ed?
Yeah, I'm from Little River.
That Ed's from Lexington, South Carolina. You're right.
Yeah, I'm from Little River. Yeah.
You're the one that gives me the golf report every day.
Right, is that? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I can't believe I confused the two. I mean, there are more than 2 Eds in South Carolina.
They're probably anyway.
Okay, let me
I'm
ask you this, Ed. How often do you
Okay.
play golf?
Oh, 4 or 5 days a week.
Oh my goodness! When I'm 76, I want to be playing golf 4 or 5 times a week. When I'm 66,
Well, I'm
I want to be
76
playing
too,
golf
yeah.
4 or 5 times a week.
Hey, have you ever heard of the Monday after the Masters down here?
I know that Darius Rucker has a big deal.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, sure.
Golk and Wingo have the show here every year and stuff.
Yeah, no, I've gotten to know Darius. Mark Hebiak and I came down to Columbia about a year and a half ago, maybe about a year ago, I should say. And
this is Myrtle Beach.
we spent the day with him and had a great time.
Okay. Would you be interested in playing that some year if I could?
Oh, I'd
work
love.
it out?
Are you kidding?
It's in Myrtle Beach. You know.
I
that,
would. I would love to do that.
Well, I
don't know. Listen, I don't know if I'm going to make the celebrity list because I mean, after Golick and Wingo, there's quite a drop off to me.
Hey, you'll be number one. Trust me. At least with a bunch of people I know, you will be.
Well, I would have a blast. Listen, I'm not much of a golfer. I have not played much in recent years, but
that does not matter.
Yeah, well, that's the golf I like.
Okay.
I don't like playing with people that take golf too seriously.
Well, right. Well, I tell you, I'm going to start working on that and get you down
Okay,
here
well, that would be great, Ed. Thank you for the invitation.
All right, man. Thanks. I'll be in touch.
Okay, and then we'll finally get to meet. There's another Ed in South Carolina. I don't know how I got. I don't know why I thought there was more than one. There was only one Ed in South Carolina. The other guy's Mr. Ed. Of course, he's a talking horse.
Definitely saw a resilient team. Of course, I was probably in the same boat as many volunteer fans, and I know you, being from Tennessee, the first 2 games, not knowing what we were watching, and of course that happens in college football. Any given day, any team can beat anyone. But to see the team go through that adversity, learn from it, and then come back and finish out the season strong, I know it was very important for the seniors. It was, of course, important for Coach Pruitt. I think it showed the young guys in the program the type of talent that they have on the team and the type of team that they can be. They're able to fight back from being down 0-2 to 2 games they should have won and still have a 5-game win streak at the end of the year and still make it to a Florida Bowl game. Then they'll definitely be able to hit the ground running the next year and continue to stack and build on their performances. So I think they're headed in the right direction. It's literally you're sitting on the tarmac at the airport and you have ESPN pulled up on your phone and you're watching it, or you're in night meetings, you have your phone turned all the way down, you just have it sitting over there, just staying tuned in. You got the ESPN updates on your watch. So I've been tuned in to every single game since I left. I know when I was up in Pittsburgh and we had like 5 or 6 balls on the team, we were always talking about the game leading up to it. And then on Saturday, we were tuned in, whether it's at dinner on the big screen watching it or whether it's watching it on our phone. Of course, when you're at home, it's a little easier. You just get to go home and chill in your living room while you're off and watch it. But on the road, it can be kind of interesting. You lose phone reception in the air, so you're trying to log into the internet on the plane, trying to get the Wi-Fi codes to watch it. So we're definitely dedicated to watching the Volunteers every Saturday. I can promise you that. I also know Jarrett. I got a chance. He was a freshman when I was a senior, and I know the type of kid he is, and I think he showed that throughout the season. Bouncing back from maybe a tough outing to come out and perform well. Bouncing back from injuries, he was out there playing, a week after surgery with a cast on his hand. So it shows his dedication to the sport. It shows his resiliency. It shows his toughness. And then it also shows how much he cares about his team and how much he cares about the University of Tennessee. He knows he was his best option to win, so he's going to be sure he's prepared and ready to go on Saturdays, no matter what stands in his way. So it's been great to watch him succeed, watch him to continue to play at higher levels as the weeks have surpassed. And I'll be glad to spend some time with him. I haven't gotten a chance to check in with a lot of the guys just with how crazy this year has been. But when they get down to Jacksonville, I'll be excited to spend some time with them, hang out, and just talk ball, just talk life with them. And it'll be a great reunion. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I've been ecstatic to see how they finish the year and want them to go out with a bang here in Jacksonville.
Welcome back. We are here, and a reminder, about an hour from now, we'll join Archbishop Marino for the final hour, talking to him about his year, the meaning of Christmas, and your opportunity to speak with him as well. Let's check out Dave in Baton Rouge. Hello, Dave.
Paul, how are you today?
I am well. Thank you for the call.
Hey, Merry Christmas, and I hope y'all have a good time for Christmas when we get off this phone. Listen, I was going to call you and pop off about not worrying about Clyde Allaire not playing for the Tigers against Oklahoma. But when I got to looking at our depth chart, I didn't know that Tyrone Davis-Price, who is Clyde's backup, is out too with some kind of injury.
Oh, I didn't
Did you know
realize
that?
No, I did not.
You know, we got Chris Curry, and we've got John Emery. And John Emery is a 5-star freshman and was the number 1 running back in the cycle last year.
Oh, yeah.
And he's had a little problems picking up the passing game blocking. So they've kind of shoved him to the side, and I think you'll see a lot of Chris Curry. But we got plenty of talent at running back. We just don't have a lot of experience there right now.
No, listen, sometimes you don't know what you have until you're put in a position. I'm not overly concerned. I don't think he will play, but I think for this game, LSU is going to be okay. I would not say the same thing if it were one of the other two teams.
No, and I agree with you 100%. If we can get Clyde back, because Burrow's very comfortable with Clyde.
Right.
It's a protection blanket for him. They think a lot, but if we get to Clemson or to Ohio State without Clyde there picking up those linebackers, it could be a long night.
Yeah,
Paul.
no, I agree. But listen, I don't think there's much. Listen, I can't predict. Every injury is different, but he should have 3 weeks off. That would put him in a really good spot.
Another couple of things I'll run by you, and I'll let you go. I was excited that Joe Burrow graduated with his master's degree yesterday in liberal art. He crossed the stage at LSU and picked up his diploma. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, a couple of weeks ago, it's taken you a while to warm up to Coach O, but a couple of weeks ago you said that you thought Coach O was exclusive to LSU when you were asked if you would take him or Kirby or Dan Mullins out of Florida.
Right.
Is your opinion still the same?
No.
I thank you for that.
Yeah, listen, I think sometimes you have to take a second look at something, and I mean, I saw what he did at Ole Miss, and then I saw how he advanced and progressed, and I happened to be at one of his games at Southern Cal when he beat Stanford. And that removed much doubt, but I think you just have to sometimes see it to believe it, and I believe it now.
Well, and here's the thing I'm going to tell you right now, and Squirrel and Larry and all these long-time callers, and I haven't been on the show calling but about a year, but I've listened to it a long time, but all of these guys think that LSU is a flash in the pan.
No, they're wrong.
Our backup quarterback to Burrow broke all Brett Favre's records in the state of Mississippi. He's got a better cannon on him than Burrow. Now, I'm not going to come in here and lie to you and tell you that I think his decision-making will be as good as Burrow's, but I'm going to tell you what, from a pure passer, that kid out of Mississippi, Miles Brennan, is going to be good for us next year. And everybody's running around here worried about not getting a running back in this cycle. He's got 8 running backs, and out of the 8, 6 of those are freshmen. So if he redshirts a couple of those guys, no big deal. I hope he focused the rest of his draft pick or scholarships, I should say, on offensive and defensive linemen. I think we're hurting there more than we are at skilled positions right now.
Appreciate the call very, very much.
Hey, y'all have a good Christmas, and I'll talk to you next week.
Great to have you on. Really do appreciate that. Daryl is up next. Hello, Daryl.
Hello, how are you?
We are well, thank you.
Hang on just a second here. You there?
We are.
Yeah, just calling to wish everybody Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Well, thank you.
I can't even talk right now. I just want to say, you got the Archbishop on. My brother met the Pope recently. He lives in Canada.
Oh, really?
He works for a bank up there. I think it's the second largest one in Canada. And he was chosen to represent the Human Trafficking Commission for them. And he got to meet the Pope.
Oh, my.
So I got a picture of that. But
that has always been one of my dreams, to meet the Holy See. And it just, I'm not saying, I don't know, I've never met any Pope, but this Pope to me just seems so personable. And from what I've been able to glean from my friend who will be on in about an hour, he can confirm that. Well, what an amazing experience. I mean, listen, I doesn't really, and I'm not Catholic, so it's not because of that, but I just think he's one of the most unique symbols in this world, and I'm such a big fan of his. Appreciate the call. We're an hour away from Archbishop Marino. We have plenty of time for you to get in at 855 Risk All. We're back. Zim has arrived for his final appearance before he goes up to the North Pole to start delivering presents.
Yeah, the final appearance of 2019, Paul. We've had a lot of fun this week going back and looking at the greatest hits of this decade. So now we have the top 5 newsmakers, top 5 news stories of the decade. We're going to start with number 5. States passed name, image, and likeness legislation. This happened this year. And of course, the states forced the NCAA in October to approve a measure in which all athletes can be compensated. Of course, this will be a big story coming forward in the next decade. Number 4, Urban Meyer. What a decade. He started in 2010, resigning from Florida. He went to Ohio State, followed in the footsteps of his mentor, Earl Bruce, won a national title, was suspended 3 games during the Zach Smith scandal, and then ended the decade resigning from his post at Ohio State. Conference realignment, obviously a huge story earlier this decade. The college football playoff era began. That was in 2014. The BCS went goodbye, death to the BCS. And all we've done since then is complain about the college football playoff, actually.
Let's get the BCS back so we can complain about that.
And then number 1, of course, the Penn State scandal. Everything involved in this made this the number 1 story of the decade. Obviously, Jerry Sandusky being convicted of some very horrendous charges. Joe Paterno winning 400 games over 45 years, then being let go by the university, and then eventually, sadly, passing away in 2012. Paul, your thoughts on these stories of the decade?
You can't get past. I mean, Urban Meyer was everywhere. I mean, he consumed so much oxygen. But the Penn State story was one of the biggest stories I've ever seen. It's ironic that we talked so much about the Alabama LSU game, the game of the century, November of 2011. The Penn State story broke that afternoon. I think it was one of the local publications went with it, and I remember being at the game with everyone in the whole world, and you kind of like, hey, did you hear about that? And hey, that can wait. We've waited 4 weeks for this game. And by the time we were heading home, the story started to percolate, and it never stopped.
Incredible story and the end of an era. And what's interesting too, Paul, all the NCAA sanctions the fallout of that. It's amazing how Penn State has kind of rebounded from all that. As the decade comes to a close, James Franklin has brought the program back because they were in a position where they might not have recovered from that.
Bill O'Brien was up there, and he did a phenomenal job in keeping it together. NCAA just rewrote their own rules, and didn't matter in the end. We are off and running, and what a great day it's been, and we still have a couple hours to go here on this Friday before Christmas. Great to have you on. Let's get back to the calls. A couple more guests to come. And Holly, it's a Holly Jolly Holly on this Friday before Christmas. How are you, Holly?
I'm great, Paul. I really wanted to call and just tell you, first of all, I'm an Aggie, so have a hard life. It's been rough. But I went to Texas A&M. It's a great school.
It is.
But I wanted to thank you because my dad, it's been a hard year. My mom died, and my dad just had some major surgery, and he and I have been watching you the past 2 weeks, and we've laughed, and it's just really helped his soul and his, and he's doing so great. He was discharged from physical therapy today, and a lot of it I really do think is, I mean, even though Larry is what he is, the way you respond and things like that. It just, I don't know, you've brought us a lot of joy and some relief, and we needed that. So I just wanted to say thank you and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate. Just wanted to thank you.
First of all, I celebrate everything. Anything I can celebrate, I do. So, Holly, thank you for that. That means so much. I mean, it's that is such a uplifting story for all of us here on the program. Well, best to your dad, and you guys have a great Christmas.
Thank you, and Giggle Maggie.
Yig'em, thank you very much. How cool. You ever, if you were in the hospital, would you watch the show? No, probably wouldn't. Judy is up next. Good afternoon, Judy.
Hello, Mr. Finebaum. I just want to wish you and your family and your staff just a joyous and blessed holiday season. And if you'll indulge me just a minute, I want to tell you something about my family. I was the only child, and I knew who you were back when I'm 70 now, so I'm older than you. But I knew who you were back when you wrote for the Post-Herald. And my daddy would play a little game, and it was a learning experience, too. He would read your articles the night that you were in the paper.
Oh, my.
You wrote it for the paper. And then he would have me read it. And then the next morning, he had taped on my bathroom mirror a question to see if I could answer it about something that you wrote, and it got to be a game with us.
Oh, wow.
And then when we went to the breakfast table, he would ask me the answer to the question that he taped on my mirror, and I just thought that was just a wonderful memory for me. But I've known who you were then when you were at the radio station, and I've watched all your broadcasts since you've been on TV, and they're just a real blessing. My mother is 99 years old, and she watched you every day that you came on since you were on TV. But this past year, I had to put her in a nursing home, which I had to finally give in and do it. And so she has gotten dementia, and so she can't watch you anymore. And it's been bittersweet for me this year because we would sit, and she would sit in Birmingham at her home, and I would be here at my home in Ragland, and we would watch you together on the TV. So you have just meant more than you'll ever know to my family. I just can't even tell you how much you've meant to us and how much joy and happiness and knowledge you have brought to us and our family. And I just wanted you to know that. And I do hope you have somewhat of a peaceful holiday season, because you'll have to be working part of the time, right?
Well, not until after Christmas. No, we're going to.
But after the week after Christmas, it'll start with you.
Our show Thursday, the day after Christmas, will emanate live from Atlanta, the site of the LSU game. But by the way, Judy, I don't know how to thank you. I could spend the rest of my life trying to thank you for what you just said. But
well, don't feel that way. I mean, you brought being the only child, you just brought excitement to our life every week. And I just want you to know that you are a true blessing, and I trust you, and I love you, and I just think that if I didn't have you at if I watch you at 2 o'clock, if I didn't have you to turn on in the afternoon, it would be a long afternoon. But you're just really a blessing to so many people. So just carry that thought with you throughout the holidays. And Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh,
and
Judy.
I will hang up because I know you have lots of
No,
calls.
well, thank you, and you have
thank
a
you so
wonderful
very
and blessed
much,
holiday
Miss-
too. Thank you, Judy. Wow,
Okay, bye-bye.
man, that's amazing. Don is up next in Birmingham. Hello, Don.
Hey, Paul. Good to talk to you.
Thank
that
you.
was a great call from Judy there and the one from Holly earlier. I wanted to throw in one thing, harkening back to your earlier part of your program on the I'm an Alabama fan, but to me, one of the Auburn players that really meant a lot to them in a big win over Alabama 2 years ago that I give them total credit for was Kerryon Johnson.
You're right. He was great.
I don't know how you maybe couldn't. Yeah, you'd have to take somebody off. He was a really good player for them. This has been a really good show today, hearing everyone, and I like to hear from these guys like Greg from Athens, because I think he does sum up a lot of some of the Alabama people's feelings. We're going to have a good effort next year, and hopefully this recruiting class meant a lot for the ability to do that, and guys that are coming back, hopefully for next year. I was wanting to ask you if you worked with George Cabase, who's been a big Alabama flavor today, and didn't you work with him at the Post-Herald?
George, well, I'm sorry, Don, I missed the last name.
George Cabase. Maybe I've got the wrong name. It was one of the sports writers at the Post-Herald a number of years ago. He may have preceded you. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
no,
we
unless
met his brother.
I'm trying to remember, because I mean, I was there 20-some odd years, so I would have
Could have
known.
been an older. I think his name was Cabase. He was an older man. We met. He lived in the South Side area here where I live, but I knew my wife and I were privileged to meet his.
There was a George. There was a George who was an editor when I got there.
Yeah.
Would he have been?
I'm thinking this fella. He lived not too far from me, and his brother was a little younger than him, but still about a year older than my dad, who's deceased.
By the way, I can see the guy right now walking in. I know exactly who you're talking about. He was a really nice person.
Yeah. We met his brother, and he was actually an Auburn fan,
Right.
but he enjoyed watching Alabama games a couple of times.
It's amazing. You
with
see
me,
people
and,
in your mind, right, that you haven't thought about in
passed away
38
recently.
years.
Yeah, I wanted to mention tonight too. I know with the Monsignor, the Archbishop coming on, was he out of Mobile? Was he the Archbishop for the Mobile area?
Joe Marino grew up in Birmingham, and he worked. There was an Archbishop in Mobile, too. He was the Archbishop of that diocese, and I had the opportunity to get to know him many years ago. But Joe Marino's background, he grew up in Birmingham. He's the only person in his family that did not go to Auburn, which there are many jokes that we have both told on each other as a result. His dad, Sal, just passed away, and I had many a conversation where Joe would say, could you call my dad and talk him off the ledge about the way Auburn's playing right now?
That's interesting. Well, along that line, in about 3 hours, I'm going to be going to the performance by our wonderful Alabama Symphony Orchestra of the Handel's Messiah.
Oh, my goodness.
And,
that is fantastic.
A large group of the Catholic population. I'm not Catholic myself, but we usually see them there, and it's always a great performance.
No, I'm going to be somewhere this weekend where that is also playing. And
they do a great performance. It's the only one this is.
Yeah,
Friday
by the way,
night,
I am
so,
not Catholic either, but I feel like I am because I grew up in a neighborhood that was about half Catholic, and I went to a Catholic high school, and Joe has been one of the spiritual influences of my life. So, hey, thank you, Don. Great to have you on. And one thing about the conversation in 45 minutes, it is not. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. Please call in and share or ask or maybe seek some guidance. That's one of the more meaningful parts of that hour is people that maybe have had some tough times looking for some spiritual understanding. We are going to take a break. Well, they've had some big moments. Yes, they have. Thank you very much. Won the Sugar Bowl. Coach was Hugh Freeze. Houston Nutt coach there. Hugh Freeze coach there, and of course Matt Luke, who's now the offensive line coach at Georgia.
How would you sum up Ole Miss's decade, Paul?
Eventful.
Well, that's a great
word.
a great summary.
You talk about the win over Alabama, which was the greatest win in school history, and then you think about that July 20th night when we were all shocked and brought back to work to report the news that Hugh Freeze had been fired, and the reasons why he had been fired.
Yeah, and then just the Egg Bowl drama that's unfolded the last couple of years.
Every year, yeah.
I mean, the Egg Bowl has become must-see Thanksgiving TV, right?
Yeah. It has certainly been eventful, but they've had some great players. So we'll look at our Mount Rushmore from the past decade of Ole Miss.
A.J. Brown, those nasty whiteouts, Laquan Treadwell, another one of those great guys. Chad Kelly made the list.
Kelly made it?
I mean, he's probably the best quarterback they've had this decade. Between him and Bo Wallace. And then, of course, Laramie Tunsil, offensive lineman.
Oh, yeah, you didn't even mention.
Hard to think about Ole Miss without thinking about Laramie Tunsil.
Right. Just when you thought you saw everything. Just when you thought you saw everything in college football.
That was probably the picture of the decade for Ole Miss.
Yeah. Maybe, they went, they're the Land Sharks now.
Yeah, Land Shark Tony.
You know,
hardly anyone left there. AD left, the head coach left.
It's almost been a clean sweep, right?
Yeah.
Since that era.
And by the way, you clean the place up and you bring in Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin. The future's bright, though.
Just to make sure it keeps its Mr. Clean image.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Nick Suss joining us, a great friend of ours from the Ole Miss beat in Jackson. Hey, Nick, thanks for being here. So we haven't had a chance to talk to you, so I don't think. It's been kind of a crazy week and a half since the Lane train moved in.
Yeah.
How's it gone?
Yeah, I mean, the approval rating probably couldn't be higher. He's broken all the metrics there. People really love him. You look at that introduction he did where there were probably 4,500 people packed into the pavilion. I don't know if they've gotten those true numbers for a basketball game yet this year. They probably have once or twice, but there were even a couple hundred people who stalked his plane landing to greet him as he came into town. He's got a lot of approval, and even if the signing day the other day wasn't maybe as fruitful as somebody would have hoped for Kiffin, they kind of give him the time of day because it's been 10 days between he was announced and signing day, so people kind of understand the difficulty that comes with that. But still, people are very excited. People are very optimistic because he's the splash hire that they wanted. And
hey, Nick, tell me this: what if Kiffin hadn't come? Who would have been the coach?
I don't know. I feel like they put a lot of effort into Kiffin. I think that the names that you would have heard come up were Drinkwitz, who ended up at Missouri, obviously, and then they would have made a push on Billy Napier if he wanted to leave Lafayette, which it doesn't seem like he wanted to leave this year. He might be a next-year guy, but yeah, Drinkwitz and Will Healy, who I think is playing right now, and Napier, that tier of coach probably would have been the next tier of candidate.
It's really interesting because Norvell was the lead candidate for about 7 schools, and he went on, and then Lane got in the middle. So. What is this staff going to look like? I've heard 1 million rumors. You probably heard 2 million.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think he put a lot of effort these last 4 or 5 days into recruiting and kind of took a bit of time off from putting the staff together. I think he has his entire offensive staff in mind so far, and I just don't think they've finished up announcing who's going to be the receivers coach and the tight ends coach and all of those little details there. The interesting thing is going to be defense, because he doesn't want to make defensive hires until he's picked a coordinator. And right now, Mike McIntyre is still working on staff. He has not been told he won't be coming back, but Kiffin has not said he's going to be back either. Kiffin said he's going to interview McIntyre. He's going to be a candidate, but all the names you've heard are the same names I've heard of. He's going to go after some people maybe he's worked with at Alabama in the past. He's going to go after some big names that are former head coaches who are on the rebound like McIntyre was last year. He's going to try and find the best recruiter and the best coach he thinks he can get to run the defense.
You think that will be a splash hire?
I would be surprised if it's not Mike McIntyre, it's going to be a splash hire. It's not going to be somebody you haven't heard of. I would be shocked.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to upstage the speculation with some of the names, but they are pretty interesting.
Yeah, I completely agree.
We'll keep that between us because I don't want to cause anyone any problems on this weekend before Christmas. Just trying to reflect back over the last couple of years. I mean, this has been a roller coaster program. Where do you think it is right now? You think it's stabilizing?
That's probably the best word to use. I mean, I wrote about this, and there's going to be a story going up about it later in the week. The highest highs this program has ever experienced in the last 50 years probably came this decade. And probably the lowest lows they've experienced in the last 50 years came this decade immediately after the high highs. It's been a lot of instability, and now the hope with Kiffin is that he can right the ship. And whether or not that means they're going to win 7-8 games every year or they're going to stay where they are at 5-6, who knows? There's a lot of personnel and there's a lot of coaching to figure out. But for now, the aim is stability. They want to find that place of stability just because of how volatile Ole Miss has been, not just from the Hugh Freeze situation and the Matt Luke era, but, I mean, you look at Houston Nutt had 2 8-win seasons and then 2 losing seasons. And before that, Cutcliffe followed the 03 season where they were great with an 04 season where he kind of fell off the cliff. And there was the Ogeron era, which was a failed experiment. And they haven't found any consecutive string of success for longer than maybe 3 years in my lifetime. It's probably longer than that, too.
Let me ask you, Nick, in terms of the Ole Miss family, I know that Kiffin was a fan favorite, but there has been speculation that he wasn't always or wasn't particularly regarded well among some of the old guard. Has that changed? What's the story there?
I don't know. I've heard similar stuff, and I'm sure there are some people who are always going to see him for his past faults, and there's no getting that out of people's heads. Obviously, there is the situation at Tennessee that rubbed people the wrong way, and his Twitter account and how volatile he is. There are some people who just won't get over that. But I think the thing, to use your phrase, the Ole Miss family, Ole Miss really takes its own in. And whether it's somebody they didn't like at first or somebody they liked at first, once you're one of theirs, you're one of theirs. So I think a lot of people have, even if they didn't support the hire initially, I think they are behind it because at the end of the day, they want to see the team succeed, and they want to see the program back where it was 4 or 5 years ago. And in order to do that, you can't grouse too much about wanting a different coach than the coach you have. You just kind of have to get behind the guy you do. And that's what they did for Matt Luke for 3 years, and the people who didn't support Luke still wanted the program to win when Luke was there, and I think the same will be true of Kiffin.
Expectations is a big word. Coaches hate it. You know that.
Yeah.
But you're not a coach, so I'll ask you. What are the expectations for next year?
For next year, I think the expectations are pretty reasonable because they know how tough the schedule is going to be. And the goal should be 6 or 7 wins if you have a best-case scenario, because more than 7 wins means you're beating a team who's currently ranked in the top 12.
Right.
But beyond that, I think the expectation is get to a point where you can consistently win 8 games a year. Because Ole Miss has this, and I hinted at this before, this kind of awful pattern of you win 8 games for 2 years and then immediately fall down to 3 or 4 wins. And the aim with this Kiffin hire is to have a more consistent coach who can keep the team up around 8 or 9, and then once every 4 years have that 10 or 11, instead of keep the team up around 5 or 6, and then once every 4 years have that 8 or 9.
For those who are in your car, Baylor is the opening game. That is not easy. At LSU, at A&M, of course, Florida shows up on the schedule. Alabama's always on the schedule. But I'm guessing that November 26th game against Mississippi State will loom very large, as it always does.
Yeah, that one and the A&M game are going to be the two that probably loom the largest, because if you look at the first 7 games of the season, 5 of them are Baylor, Florida, Auburn, Alabama, LSU. I think they play Auburn, Alabama, LSU back to back to back, which is just a brutal stretch. And then things get a little bit easier in the back half, and A&M is the toughest game in the back half along with State. So it's a long ways away, and we can't speculate too much about next November. But those two seem to be the games the season will hinge upon, because if you can pull one of those off, or if you can pull off one of those early season upsets against an Auburn or a Baylor or Florida, but yeah, it's really going to hinge on those 2 games in November.
Nick, thanks for being on so often. You've been a fantastic guest, and you have a great career ahead of you, and we enjoy seeing you. Have a Merry Christmas.
You too, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff from Nick Suss. We have one more guest. He's coming up in about 35 minutes. He doesn't cover any football. So that's the way it looked. It was quite a row. I mean, Ole Miss was a very relevant team in the middle of this decade.
That 2015 game reminded me of that might have been the worst game I've ever seen Bama play at home until they played this season, right? They had
remember
like
the shot of the fans leaving towards the end of the game?
They had like so many kickoff return fumbles, and I think that was the game Jake Coker didn't start. Saban, I think, started Cooper Bateman. It was such a terrible game.
Everybody in the SEC had moments this decade that you could really say, like, wow. You know, everybody had their ups and downs, but even Vanderbilt had a streak. You know, Ole Miss had everybody in the SEC, Paul. Have you seen anything or covered anything where you have every team have their moments throughout the whole decade?
You're talking about an all-encompassing 10 years, so you better have a few moments.
Yeah, I know. You can go back to the 90s, though. I mean, what were Ole Miss moments in the 90s? Mississippi State moments. I mean, this year, it just seemed like this past 10 years, the SEC kept elevating itself above everybody else because every team had their moments in their years.
Well, when you have the best team in the country winning half the national championships, you better move along. Okay, Coach is up next in Tennessee. Great to have you on, Coach.
Hey, Paul. Good to talk to you again.
Thank you very much.
Happy holidays to you and all the family and people there. I'm going to have to give you a little advice today, Paul. I'm going to have to ask you to withdraw your name from consideration for all these athletic director jobs. Your show means too much to me people. So
thank you very much.
I know you wanted that go out west. I know you were in line for it, but
no, I didn't get it. And it's probably a good thing for Clay Helton I didn't.
Yeah, that's.
I would have fired everyone, including the president who hired me.
Well, the UCLA job is a better location.
No doubt.
So,
yeah, no, I'm not. You know, I am. I mean, I may be leaving here, but not to be an AD.
I know.
I mean, there's some really good jobs opening coming in Washington.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. Soon.
Thinking about being a senator. But I'm no senator's son.
You know, but that's a job for life, is it not?
It's a 6-year gig. I like jobs that are worth 6 years.
That's exactly right. That's pretty good job security, a 6-year job at least. So, but hey, listening to all your calls today and in the past, you know, I don't set my alarm for too many things anymore, except for about 2:57 Eastern time every day, and it really means a lot to me personally to listen and watch the show, and obviously to a lot of the people. So you just keep doing what you're doing. Everybody's going to be.
Thank you very much. It means a great deal. Thank you, Coach. And great to see you this year in Knoxville.
Hey, look forward to seeing you again, Paul.
You got it, bud. Thank you. Fred is up next. Hey, Fred.
Paul, thank you for taking my call, brother, and Merry Christmas to everyone out there listening. Happy holidays, Happy Hanukkah, everything that you celebrate. I want to wish it to you, my man.
Thank you very much.
Paul, and I've been enjoying it all week when I've been able to see the Mount Rushmores and some of the flashbacks. And I just have to say that taking a look at everything that you've done this year and some of the things that, over the last decade and some of the things I've had a chance to participate in, I have to say, and you probably already know, that one of my favorite, if not favorite moment of the decade as it relates to sports really has to do with the people. Because at the end of the day, these games, you know, they come and they go, but the people are the one thing that remains. And having a chance to meet you and so many members of the Finebaum family, like Jerome and Rich, you know, and Ashley and Will out of Gulfport, you know, Lou. There's just so many wonderful people. I-Man, Miss Lou Ann from Anniston, God bless her soul, who's moved on to heaven and watching us from the box seat to heaven. So many wonderful people. That was one of the highlights, if not the highlight to me. And I do miss hearing some of those old Alabama callers call in, not because I want to go back to, you know, old days and this show is terrible, but because those callers to me are sort of the cornerstone of how this show went on to be a show that ESPN wanted to put on the air and everything you've done. And by the way, I still miss the caller, the rants, the Finebaum rants, the videos. But I just want to get your thought, Paul, not to go too far down memory lane, but when you think back to some of the names that I've mentioned and where the show is and how they've helped contribute really to you and your success, what do you think about when you think about those days, really high watermarks in my mind, having them all together?
Well, I'll tell you what. I know that there are some pretty famous calls. And listen, if you think back on this decade, there's one call that will trump every other call every single time. But that's not the call that I remember this decade by. I remember this decade by some of the calls that we heard tonight, that we've heard many, many times, that talk about what the people and the environment that this program brings means to individuals. And you heard it earlier, and I've heard that a couple of times, where if you're down and you're sick, and maybe your dad's in the hospital, your mom, and this gives you some commonality. To me, that's more important than all the Updikes of the world who call in bragging and boasting of a criminal activity that hurt a lot of people and still does.
Well, the only thing I can add to that is nothing, but I'll go ahead and try anyway, Paul. And that is, people like Miss Phyllis, who I haven't had a chance to meet yet, and I never had a chance to meet Miss Tammy. But those folks, to me, when I think about this show, and there's so many that I can't even remember, and you've heard this before, people, they don't remember really what you said, but they always remember the way you made them feel. And there's something to that when people listen to this show and when they listen to the best of what America has to offer, which really is the best of what the South has to offer for the most part when we have callers from the SEC. And it's one of the reasons I'm proud of the show, that so many folks who love football, who love sports, really wind up loving each other, even though they're under different banners when game day rolls around. And Rick, I want to shout out to you. John, Big Ten John, I want to shout out to you. I know you're still out there listening, but Paul, I just have to thank you for doing what you do. But I couldn't let the day go by without thinking about some of those people who are gone no longer with us. Shane, God bless him. He was right. I came in right at the end of when he was a caller. But God bless everybody out there. Love and hold the people close to you tight. And remember, Paul Finebaum, you, my friend, are one hell of an American. God bless you, Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Yeah, and Fred, we probably won't have time later because we're going to have a pretty eventful final hour. But I'm glad you mentioned Shane. He was the cornerstone of the early part of this decade. But I would be remiss if I didn't say it again, that the single saddest moment of this program's history, I believe, came in November of 2018 on that cold Friday afternoon. I remember where we were in Athens, Georgia, and we shared the devastating news that Tammy had perished in that crash in Shelby County, right outside of Birmingham. That never really experienced anything quite like that. We've had losses on this program before, and significant losses. But that was the one that just not only galvanized the audience of this program, but it seemed like it galvanized the whole world of college football for a short period of time. We'll take a break. More to come. Archbishop Marino at the top of the next hour.
His last day will be the Rose Bowl, and he is, kind of making the rounds and kind of reflecting on 30 years of the Big Ten and all the changes that the sport has had, college football has had, as well as the whole college athletic scene and setup, the name, image, and likeness, the existential threats to the amateurism model, and all of those things. So we talked about a lot of those things, and about his tenure in the Big Ten, and if he would do anything over again. A lot of people have wondered about Rutgers and Maryland. Would you want to mulligan on that decision? And he will defend that, and he will stand by that. But just really about the changes, even in the media landscape, in the sport, in the way that college football has grown. We talked a little bit about, the playoff, whether it's been good for the sport, and really, what he sees that looking like moving forward. And it really was stunning to hear someone who really was the reason we didn't have a college football playoff sooner talking about expecting this thing to expand probably when the contract's up in 2026. So it was a very interesting conversation, very introspective. One thing that he's brought up, and you've started to hear it from a couple other commissioners as well, is that when you went from having 2 teams that get to play for a national championship to 4, it really started to highlight who isn't getting there, who isn't. We didn't really talk about it in the same way, like, oh, the Big Ten hasn't been in the national championship game in X amount of years. We talked about not winning it, but now it's, are you not in it? And, is your champion not in it? How many times has the Pac-12 been left out? And all of that because the access point has doubled. So, Jim Delaney, and we've heard similar things from other conference commissioners, including Larry Scott. I mean, there are people who have talked about conference championships, strength of schedule, things not being rewarded in the way that they felt they should, and that's caused them to have their teams left out. So, we talked about that, and then I thought it was really interesting. He pointed out that the fastest way to get to expansion would be if the ACC or the SEC were left out because they have not experienced that. And he's saying he doesn't wish it on anybody, but, quote, I don't think you fully appreciate the damage that's done when conferences are left out 2 years, 3 years, 4 years in a row. And I think he's right that, we've kind of been saying that from the start. If the SEC were ever to be left out of the playoff one year, all of a sudden the drumbeat for expansion would happen. So I think he's absolutely right about that. And the timeline, he said, there's a lot of contracts, there's a lot of things that would have to, be worked out in order to expand before the contract with ESPN is up in 2026. But he used the word probably for expansion in 2026 when that deal is up.
Welcome back. Glad you're here, and a couple of minutes away from our conversation with the Archbishop. Royce is up next on this Friday afternoon. Hello, Royce.
Hey, how you doing?
We are doing well. Thank you very much.
Well, I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate your show.
Thank you.
Do you know who Harry Gilmer is, or was?
I'm sorry, who was that?
Harry Gilmer.
Harry Gilmer, sure, the great Alabama quarterback.
That's right. I can remember him, so I'm old.
Yeah, no, Harry. Harry was one of the most famous quarterbacks in Alabama history.
That's right. And I live in Huntland, Tennessee, and that's where John Majors played his ball. I know you know John Majors.
Oh, sure.
Well, I'll tell you what. If it wasn't for your show, I don't know what I'd do. Because I'm as old as I am. All these sorry things that's on there not fit to watch.
Well, listen, that means a great deal. Thank you, Royce. And we're not perfect, but we try to keep this.
Well, you're about perfect as far as I'm concerned.
Well, one thing about we try to do on this show is that everyone can watch it. There's nothing here that maybe every once in a while we get a little crazy, but for the most part, I think the whole family can watch this show.
Yeah, I'm sure I don't have much family as old as I am.
How old are you?
I'm 90.
90?
Yeah.
You've seen a lot in your life.
I spent a year in France.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that had to be quite an experience.
Yeah. But I'm proud that I'm still alive. I've had cancer for 10 years.
Oh my goodness.
I'm hanging in there. But
Well, listen.
Your show sure does make it easy for me.
Well, Royce, that means more to us than you'll ever know. Well, you stay cancer-free and continue doing whatever you're doing. I want to know what it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm not doing nothing much. I get up every morning about 4 o'clock and walk 5 miles.
That's
about all I do.
Well, I'll tell you what. That is working, and there are days when I'm struggling to get out of bed. So you're giving me encouragement.
Yeah, I get up early.
So what time do you go to bed if you get up at 4 o'clock?
Well, I go to bed about 7.
Okay, well
when it gets dark.
So this is kind of like the late night entertainment for you.
Yeah, sure is. I tell you what, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have this show to watch. So
Well, that
a lot of old shows they have now, not much for somebody like me.
Well, when you were growing up, well, I mean, I guess there wasn't TV. I forget
There
that
wasn't
question.
any TV when
Scratch
I was
that one.
growing up.
What were your favorite shows once TV got going?
I don't remember exactly. It's been so long.
Yeah.
A lot of them old shows, was pretty good.
Gunsmoke?
Andy
Griffith. Oh, Andy. We
That
loved
bunch.
Andy at my house.
Yeah.
You had Andy and Miss B, Aunt B.
Yeah.
Aunt B, Gomer.
Yeah. Barney.
Who was the drunk? Otis.
Otis, yeah.
Otis? Who was Andy's girlfriend? Remember her? Helen.
Yeah.
I always thought
that's
Helen,
right.
wasn't sure about Helen.
Yeah.
Now Barney dated Thelma Lou. Yes, I always thought Thelma Lou was a little bit on the wild side. Yeah.
When Barney left, though, it just ruined that show.
Yeah, well,
It'd be
Barney
like
was
this
the
one here.
unsung hero, and then you had Opie, who turned out pretty well.
Yeah. I guess it'd be like if you left this program, it might not be as good either.
Oh, I could walk out tomorrow. They'd have somebody sitting here smiling, laughing.
Yeah, but
They just cross my name out and type somebody else's name in. Hey, listen, Royce, you be well. I want a year from today. I want you calling in and telling me how well you're doing.
I'll try to call you a year for today if
Okay,
I'm still living.
we got it. We will on the Christmas show in 2020. That's going to take
Okay.
some getting used to, by the way. We are going to
Okay.
talk to you. Hey, thank you very, very much. Same goes for our next guest. Cat Daddy, can you imagine calling this show when you're 90?
No, I hope I do, though. I'll tell you what, though, Thelma Lou is still alive and living in Mount Airy,
Is she?
North Carolina.
That is amazing.
Yes, sir. And I just want to say, Mr. Finebaum, I want to thank ESPN and the SEC Network for not preempting your show to run that circus of an impeachment going up there in the swamp in Washington so I could watch you.
Well, thank you.
And
Yeah, no,
second,
we decided. I mean, we might be impeaching some football coaches, but we're not impeaching. We're not showing that impeachment here.
Well, I got a Christmas song for you. Would you like to hear me sing it?
I sure would.
We'll munch camps roasting on an open fire. Gamecock fans nipping at his nose. And if he don't win next year, guess what? His Buckcocks goes. Merry Christmas to all you staff and everybody up there, Mr. Finebaum. As everybody has said today, you have a great show, and I enjoy it. Millions of people enjoy it. And yet, Merry Christmas. Just Merry Christmas to everybody.
Cat Daddy, one of these days I want to spend Christmas Eve with you. I won't remember it, but I want to do it.
Well, you won't. I pull out that Palmetto moonshine.
I'm going to wake up on Christmas Day going, what happened last night? What about?
Well, I'll be able to. I'll fill you all in on it. I'll videotape it so you.
No. Then we have Hangover 4.
Oh Lord, have mercy! That might make a motion picture out of that.
Hey, listen, you be well, my friend.
God bless you, son.
Thank you, Cat Daddy. That's great. Charlie in Arizona, as we're winding up this hour. Hello, Charlie.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you very, very much.
Hey, quick question for you. So I'm a graduated from the University of Minnesota. I have two daughters. One went to Nebraska. The other one went to Alabama. And I've got them involved early on in college football because of the human interest story. So you had Jake, the long snapper from USC, who, that story is pretty well documented. And then this year you had Casey O'Brien from my Gophers.
Oh, yeah.
Who, has had 4 bouts of cancer, and he's actually got into a game and did a hold for an extra point. But what's your best human interest story been this year so far?
Wow. I'm trying to think of... I met. Did you say his name was Olson, the holder at SC?
Yeah, Jake Olson.
Yeah, I met him. I was out there a couple of years ago and had the opportunity to meet him, and he was so inspiring. I tell you, the story that moved me the most was the story about Rod Bramlett, the Auburn play-by-play announcer, and we ran it a couple weeks ago when Andy Burcham and his wife pretty much became the surrogate parents for Rod's children. That story just broke my heart. But they were best friends. He took over when Rod died, and I was so moved by that story. It just personified family and a small town and a community that is always there to provide for someone in dire need. Hey, thank you very much for the call. We are heading to the break. The final hour, we're going to talk to the Archbishop, and we're going to ask you for phone calls to him specifically on something that you may desire some help or converse with him about. So these are some of the great stories of the last 10 years. Hard to beat the Iowa story. Certainly the young man at Purdue when they beat Ohio State. UAB coming back was also literally like the phoenix rising from the ashes. Listen, it's kind of hard to compare the scene of the Children's Hospital, a young man who tragically passed away, to the resurgence of a football program, but they're all great stories.
For varying accounts. Obviously, I haven't experienced the Children's Hospital wave, but I understand that's like one of the best traditions in college football, right? And college football is built on tradition, so that one's cool. Tyler Trent, just how he took over college football that year and be in attendance when Purdue beat Ohio State, dominated Ohio State really, and kind of brought everybody in West Lafayette together. And if you put it in the football terms with Alabama Birmingham or UAB, Paul, it's not the same. But everybody saw that video of the players and the players' families reacting to finding out that they're not going to have a program, and that's kind of the raw emotion that happened. But then to bring it all back, I mean, that's what college football is great. I mean, we all sometimes talk about the negative stories and things, but you can just find a couple of moments.
Listen, there are great stories, and we try to talk about them some here, but mostly we don't. We talk about the winners and the losers. That's sports.
Right.
So for the next hour, though, we're going to talk about things more important, and I do want to ask. I know people have been holding on, and I deeply apologize, but everything from here on is going to be directed toward Archbishop Marino. And we've had some fantastic calls. So if something is out, if you're something going on in your life that maybe Archbishop Marino can help you with, please, this is the opportunity to call in. For Christmas, it is our special honor to welcome to the program Archbishop Joseph Marino, who has been with us so many years, and no matter where I go, no matter where I am, people always ask me about this hour. And Archbishop Marino, thank you so much. Great to have you back on the program.
Hello, Paul. It's good to be back. Thank you so much for inviting me again. It's always a special time for me and everyone.
I say with such great sadness, I alluded to it a few minutes ago, how disappointed and sad I am that this is the first time we've had you on without your dad, who was such a great friend and someone who I always enjoyed talking to.
Yes. Dad passed away last March, and after 91 years plus, full life, and we're thankful for that. And he was loving us right up to the end, so we felt like we've been blessed, and we're thankful for that.
Well, Archbishop, we've talked to you.
By the way, Paul, excuse me, I do have to tell you one story.
Sure.
Now, I was living in Malaysia up to now, and to coordinate a time to speak to my parents, because I think there's a 14-hour difference. So when I'm going to bed, they were waking up. So we decided that it'll be Monday morning, Birmingham time, 7 a.m. And, of course, I would call. We'd chat. But now during the football season, I think you're on a local program
on WJOX.
Right. And he would say, now, Joe, wait a minute. just talk to Mother for a while. I got to listen to Paul for a little while.
That's fantastic. He was such a dear, sweet man as your mother is, and I so miss those moments. But we had one special as well, and I've never shared this with the audience, but my wife's dad about a year ago, you and I met, and you took me back to my father-in-law's house, and we went out on the back porch, and I'll let you pick up the story here because he was so anxious to meet you, and you said a prayer for him, and tragically, right before your dad died, he passed away, and the irony, Archbishop Marino, is he passed away walking out on those very same steps where you had blessed him.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember. It was about this time last year. You were in Birmingham, and I think we had a cup of coffee somewhere, and you asked me to bring me over to your father-in-law house, and I never met him before. Of course, Linda was there. We had a nice chat, and found out he had gone to St. Paul's School downtown,
right,
where I had served my first time when I was just ordained a priest, and we talked about that. And we were just chatting about getting ready for Christmas, and I said, well, look, before I leave, maybe we should say a little prayer and give a little blessing. And he said, oh, please, please. And it was very nice. What a wonderful person.
And every time, and listen, this story has been repeated, I'm sure, many times in your life, but every time he talked to us, he was elderly, he mentioned the speciality of that moment. And I ask you on that because this time of the year, we all are a little bit different. We tend to be more reflective, and we've already heard that on the program today. But I always love to hear you talk about the meaning of Christmas and how we gather. Too bad we don't do it every day of the year. I know a lot of people in your world do, but the rest of us tend to wait maybe too long every year to be reflective.
Well, Christmas is, in a sense, was the beginning of a turning point in history for humanity. We can say things have not quite been the same since the first Christmas in Bethlehem. And its meaning is that God decided he wanted to live with us right on the earth in the form of flesh, in the form of his Son. St. John writes, the Word became flesh, and he pitched his tent to live among us. And that's what the God of Judaism and Christianity and Islam believes, that God is truly with us and that he's a part of our history. And in a particular way, Christianity, because we believe that God became man in the Son of God, in Christ. And the church, which has been existing for 2,000 years since, continues that God among us. And so in prayer or giving a blessing or a comforting word, it's the continuation of what Christ did in his life, and that's what we're all about. And Christmas reminds us of that. And, it's a very tender time because we see the nativity scene, and God decided to come to the world like every other human being in the form of a baby, which needs love and protection. And we see the nativity scene of Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus. That's the icon of Christmas, and that's the icon of God's love for us and wanting to be with us. And he's still with us, of course.
Archbishop, you mentioned Malaysia. You have been the papal nuncio there, and before that in Bangladesh and other places throughout the world. Very difficult assignments that I know you've done tremendously satisfying and great work helping many people. But you recently received a new appointment, and I in the local media in Alabama, I am embarrassed and apologize to you. It's a very prestigious and significant appointment that you'll be in Rome, and for whatever reason, I think the headline in the Birmingham paper said that it was Archbishop Marino Finebaum guest.
Yes.
So that's what it's come down to, huh?
Yes, that was my first credential in the local paper, yes. My family sent it to me immediately because I did not even have time to read any of the articles in there. I said, well, if that's what it is, it is.
So I am interested, and I know the audience is as well, about your new assignment, because you've spent many years working in the Vatican at the side of the pontiff. This will be a different job. You're going to be the president of a group. Tell us about it.
Well, the academy to which Pope Francis has appointed me is the diplomatic school of the future diplomats of the Vatican. And, of course, I was there myself from 1984 to 1988. The school is located actually in Rome. The building belongs to the Vatican. It's right there in the center of Rome next to the Pantheon. And there are 37 students, young priests who've been selected to be a part of the diplomatic corps. And there are classes that we have to take, or they have to take at this point. And it's just to prepare us for the missions to which we're sent. And the priests come from all over the world, because even from the time of Paul VI, it became very internationalized. And the community, we live together, we pray together, we eat together, we reflect together. And when they're finished their courses, and they're assigned to different places in the world. So there are about 8 or 9 in each class. So divide 37 by 4, whatever that is. And that's what I'll be in charge of now. A real change in my life, you might say, after being in all these posts around the world, close to the people and with different cultures and languages. And Pope Francis, well, he didn't ask me, told me to come back to Rome to be president of this academy, which was founded in 1701, by the way.
That was a very long time ago. Archbishop, don't go anywhere. We want to get to some phone calls here. And again, I ask the audience to be respectful, but also this is an opportunity to talk to someone who you may not very often get a chance to. So I appreciate your thoughtfulness as you call in. We will take a break. 855-242.
It's not the national holiday or the city holiday in Tuscaloosa. That it has been more from the calendar change than the fact that there are certainly people who are distressed that Alabama may finish number 2 this year in recruiting rather than number 1. But I think when Bryce Young's letter came in and they had the quarterback in the class, I think that there's a feeling they're still. They announced 20 signees so far. So they'll probably push it to 25 by February. So still some spots that Nick Saban would like to finish up a little bit stronger, but it's another one of those classes that'll keep you in contention in the SEC if you can be in the top 5 in the country. Nobody's distraught, but it's kind of like, well, you sort of broke even. You went to Las Vegas and you broke even. Nobody's celebrating or jumping up and down because it's only number 2. They only I think there's 4, depending on which service, 4 or 5 stars instead of 6, and people grumble. For instance, if Ohio State has a big year, I don't think that bothers Alabama. I think LSU to a degree, just because Alabama's been able over the years to get some really good players from Louisiana, and they've signed a running back from Louisiana who they think is going to be really good this year, and so. But they hadn't gotten the high profile like Ishmael Topsher last year, Cam Robinson, Dylan Moses, that kind of name out of Louisiana. So a little bit of that, and of course they lost to LSU, and then Clemson. They lost to Clemson last year, and I'm sure the fans want to feel like they're getting back the upper hand on Clemson, and then Clemson would probably end up at number 1. So. Probably those, if that's something that you're going to worry about. But those schools in Georgia and Florida, they're going to recruit well every year. I think the interesting story is some of the teams that are going to have to sort of reestablish and commit themselves to having top 10 classes. Southern Cal, Florida State. You don't see too many instances. In Bryce Young's case, Southern Cal was involved because geography and because he played at Mater D. But you didn't see Alabama going head-to-head with those schools nearly as much as you did with Clemson, LSU, Georgia this year.
Welcome back. We are here on this Friday night, and we're delighted to be joined by Archbishop Marino. And certainly looking forward to entertaining your phone calls as well. Archbishop, we'll start with Jim. Jim, you're on with Archbishop Marino. Go right ahead.
Hello, Paul and Archbishop. This is Jim McDade, a parishioner at St. Peter's here in Birmingham, and been to some weddings at St. Paul's. And first of all, I want to say War Eagle, and thank you for helping pray that kick into the left upright in the article. But I was praying along with you. But we just lost, this time of year can be rough, especially when you have a loss like, I just lost, you were talking about your dad, 91 plus. I just lost my father-in-law who played ball at St. Paul's, Bill Pickard. He was almost 91 years old. And this has been so disheartening around this time of year. And I look in the newspaper and I see so many elderly folks, this time of year, it gets dark so early and it's cold and the weather's not good, and we've lost so many. But I was looking to you for some, scripture suggestion or some words that could help us through this very trying time. I know a lot of people are losing, family members from that greatest generation at this time, and time of year, it seems like especially. But do you have any suggestions to help us lift this cloud, this heavy burden on us?
Well, for me, what helps the best is to be confident in the love and mercy of God. And we have the beautiful Psalm, one thing I ask of the Lord is to live in your house forever, which is our goal and journey in life. And the spiritual part, we know that this is our destiny. This is the reality of life. Of course, to lose someone, a dad, your father-in-law, whomever, is with all the comforting words of Scripture and the love of others, still does not take away the void and the emptiness. But what can fill a little bit is to remember the wonderful moments and all that was given by these great people, like you said, the greatest generation, not only to their families, to their countries, their communities, where they worked, and to be thankful for that. And I think that's what they would want us to do, to remember all of that, to remember the beauty, to remember the joy, to remember the laughs, maybe sometimes the tears, whatever, but to remember what all made us one with them in this life, and we look forward to be one with them in the next life. And that's the great hope that we have as believers, that even as we say in the Mass of the funeral, in death, life has not ended, it has only changed. And one day that will be said over us, and that will give comfort to those around, and hopefully comfort to you at this time.
Thank you, Jim. Dominic is in Chicago. Yeah. Go ahead, Dominic. You're on with Archbishop Marino.
Well, it's an honor to be on with you, Paul, but it's even more of an honor to be on with the Archbishop. Thank you so much. I'm Roman Catholic. I'm from Chicago. Became an Alabama fan because my daughter went to school down there. But I'm just wondering if you can expound a little bit on today's readings, the story of Ahaz and Isaiah quoting the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall name him Emmanuel. And then how they go into the gospel, and today's gospel is about Gabriel appearing to Mary, and then it was either yesterday or 2 days ago where that same passage was quoted. I love the mix between the Old Testament and the New Testament. If you can give us some words on that, that'd be great.
Well, of course, the Old Testament gives us a preview of what God intended and what would be fulfilled in the birth of Christ, in his life as well, in his death, his resurrection. So we see the parallels between the two, especially this time of year. You've hit it perfectly. That's exactly what the church wants us to reflect upon. This great history of salvation. It was already foretold. It was already foreseen. It was already in the making. And then it happened in the birth of Christ. And this morning I did have the chance to celebrate Mass over at the parish school here, Our Lady of the Valley, with the kids getting ready for their Christmas break. And the gospel is very powerful today. And I just reflected on two important parts of the message of the angel Gabriel when the angel appeared to Mary. He said, "Do not be afraid, Mary, what you're going to be asked to do to be the mother of the Son of God," who would be Christ, of course. And those words are addressed to us as believers, whatever faith. Never be afraid, because God is with us. Never be afraid to say yes to God. Never be afraid to say yes to other people, especially those in need. Those words are really what we repeated at Christmas when the angel appears to the shepherds, right? Do not be afraid, because while it was expected, exactly how it would happen was unknown, and that Christ would come in the form of a baby. Well, do not be afraid. Something great is happening over in Bethlehem, and that's the message. That's the first message. And then the angel goes on to say to Mary, the son that you will conceive will be great. And that word great, we think of a lot of great people, a lot of great things. And from the very beginning, the angel is saying this baby is going to be great, and his life will be great, and people will want to see him, touch him, listen to him, know him. Even the shepherds, they run over when the angels say the Savior is born in Bethlehem. What do? They leave their sheep. They leave their livelihood, and they run over because they want to see this baby. This something new is about to happen in the world. And throughout the whole life of Jesus, we see that thousands would go want to see him, hear him, touch him. Why? Because he was doing something incredible for humanity. He was feeding the hungry. He was helping those who were blind to see, those who are deaf to hear, those who were lame to walk. He was changing the world right in front of them by changing our condition. He was forgiving sins. And so this is the great message of this time of year. And I think you've hit it very well, this parallelism between the Old and New Testament.
Thank you very much. Jason is in Florida. You're on with Archbishop Marino.
How you doing, Mr. Finebaum?
Very well, thank you.
I just would love to say that I am not worthy to have him walk under my roof, but only say the word and my soul shall be healed. My father has been alive for 93 years, and we just got him out of a nursing home. And he has been a Catholic for 93 years. And had it not been for my father, I would not know Jesus. And so over this TV show, I just want to thank my father for allowing me to know the Lord Jesus Christ and God and the Holy Spirit. And with that, I'm going to let you have it, Mr. Finebaum.
Thank you, Jason. All the best. And Archbishop Marino, I'd like you to comment on that, because it's just so interesting and comforting how people react to different events in their life.
And I forget the gentleman's name. It just went so quickly. Who just spoke?
Jason.
But it was a very moving.
Jason.
Very moving testimony to his dad, and he kind of said something very profound. His father, I'm sure, did everything a father's supposed to do for him. Of course, he gave him life, probably gave him the finest education possible, steered him in the right direction for life, and he gave him the faith. He gave him that which is most precious, that no one can ever take away. We can only lose it or we can only deny it, but no one can take it away, because what's in our heart can never be taken away. And that should remind all of us, especially the young parents who may be listening, you are the first teachers of your children in faith, in knowing God, in knowing about the love of God, the mercy of God. And the education in faith begins right in the home. It can only be supported in Sunday school or catechism class or wherever they go to learn formal education about religion. But the first place we learn about God is in our home. And that's one of the great gifts that our parents give us in so many ways. And he just gave the most beautiful testimony to that in a very deep way.
Couple more minutes with Archbishop Marino and your phone calls when we come back.
We know he's hurt. We know he was carted off from practice Tuesday. They said just to keep him from to walk on his hurt hamstring into the football facility. Obviously, he hadn't returned to practice. These things take a couple of days, I'm told, to kind of work themselves out. And if you know the extent of an injury to a hamstring, so I really don't think they know, if he's going to be available next Saturday or not. If you had to ask me right now, I would tend to say no. I think the hope would be to get him back for the national championship game if they advance there. But they're kind of waiting to see. They're certainly talking about having to play running back by committee with the three freshmen, Tyrion Davis-Price, John Emery, and Chris Curry. He was the first team All-SEC running back. He's a run for 1,200 yards this year. He's a great pass catcher, 50 catches this season, and he is a very good blocker. And they put him. He's in the backfield with Joe. He's in the slot. They put him all the way out wide to the boundary, is when they go five wides at times. They've done that a lot this year. It's a blow, and no question. Now, of course, on the flip side, Oklahoma's down their top rushing, their top sack player and two other players who are suspended for the Peach Bowl. So maybe those things kind of balance out. I think by committee they can kind of fill a lot of the voids, but just having a veteran like Clyde who knows where to go and what to do on every play is very important to this offense. And it would be a blow if he can't play. I think probably the best you could hope for LSU, he can kind of be like DeAndre Swift was in the SEC championship game, that you can use him on a limited basis. But that's going to be the question of the day every day next week in Atlanta, I'm sure. Again, based on the battle of attrition that you have with the two teams right now, with Oklahoma's suspensions and Clyde being a huge question mark, LSU is still close to a 2-touchdown favorite. That has not changed very much. So, Joe Burrow, I imagine they're going to have him encased in bubble wrap between now and next Saturday. Exactly. Someone taste his food, all that sort of thing. You still have all those receivers, including Jamar Chase, the Blitnikoff Award winner. And a very capable tight end in Thad Moss. So there are still a lot of weapons. And Tyrion Davis-Price did some good things at times as well too. Clyde is more of the very shifty runner. People probably remember that spin move he put on McKinney in the Alabama game to score a touchdown late in the game. Davis-Price is more the traditional-looking LSU back. Run over you, between the tackles. So they still got talent, but it's not all wrapped up into one package like it is with Clyde.
And we welcome you back. So glad you're here. Final 30 minutes of the week, and let's get back to some calls. Dave is in West Virginia with Archbishop Marino. Dave?
Thank you, Paul. Nick Saban is a fine West Virginian and a fine Catholic.
He is.
Archbishop, I think that I believe that I am an unorthodox empiricist. To me, the finite is the finite, and the infinite is the infinite. Respectfully, how do you combine or console these two? And one quick thing, David Hume was once asked about life after death, and he responded he did not believe in as such. But if such was the case, he would surely be an infinite being and go to the place he was before he was born. So as of Christian teachings, how do you combine or console the finite with the infinite? Thank you, sir.
Very philosophical and theological at the same time. The finite really can only be complete if it's in touch with the infinite. Think of the human being. I mean, we are flesh, we are material, we can see, we can touch, we can feel, we can communicate, and we are finite. I mean, we do end as such. But the human being is complete when it's in touch with the infinite. I think the opening lines of the book of Genesis. It says God created man in his image and likeness. And that means that God created us, the finite, because remember, he took, well, in one of the stories of creation, he took the mud, right, and made Adam and Eve. But image and likeness means God created the finite in such a way that it has the capacity to search for the infinite. And not just some type of what's the word? Not just the infinite in a philosophical way, but the infinite in a personal way. That we can search for God, a person, and he's searching for us. So I don't see the conflict between the two, and they really help each other, because it's through our finiteness that we also are in touch with the infinite. Otherwise, how can we relate? I mean, we're not just spiritual, we're both. We're body and soul. And all the philosophical things you were quoting, I don't have it in front of me to look at it precisely, but certainly the search for God is precisely what it's about to be a human being. And we're not complete until we continue that search and feel comfortable in that search and reach the goal of that search.
Mike is up next in Baltimore for Archbishop Marina. Mike?
Merry Christmas to all.
Thank you.
This is a nice gift I'm about to receive. Mr. Finebaum, your family and everything. And congratulations, Archbishop, on your dissertation to the Vatican. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
I was able to come down to the Iron Bowl. I have family down there. Unfortunately, my parish priest, Father Michael Carrion from Ireland, had passed away Saturday morning. And I was just hoping that you would say a kind word for him. He's been wonderful. He runs Immaculate Heart of Mary up here in Baltimore. And just what a great man, and just very thankful for the holidays, the family, and everything. And God bless all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Remember him in prayer.
Alan is up next. Alan is in Ohio. You're on with Archbishop Marino.
Archbishop, so nice to talk to you. And I have been a Catholic all my life. I'm still active. I'm 81 years old and still commentate at Mass. And, in fact, I have to serve a funeral on Saturday. Okay. But the thing that I want to talk to you, Archbishop, is how do we come back to involving our young in the church? I think this is the most important thing that we can do. And with the closing of Catholic schools, we've lost so much of our youth, and they are not attending church. I think we need to do something to get the youth back.
Yeah, I think it is one of the big challenges that all organized religions, I think, are facing right now around the world.
And
one way, the church is going to have to reflect, talking about the Christian experience, the Catholic experience particularly, the church is going to have to reflect more and more, I think, the authentic message of the gospel. I remember reading once, Pope Paul VI said, today, and this was like 40 years ago, he wrote, today the church is not looking for, the people are not looking for teachers, they're looking for witnesses. And I think young people are very attracted to people who give credence to what they're saying and what they're doing. And to make that the attractiveness. I'm not saying to make the message diluted or to make it whatever you want it to be, to say, well, it doesn't matter. No, but to make the meaning of the message attractive. And I think the young people have a sense of that, especially in regards to many issues facing the world, and to see that the church and the community of Christians, that we are interested in what they're interested in and have something to say about it around the table. But it is a challenge, and I think the example of all of you who are still committed and still participating is also a great witness to them as well. So let's make the message understandable and attractive to the people and in line with the gospel.
Thank you, Alan, very much. Homer is in Minden, Louisiana. Homer, you're on with Archbishop Marino.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Paul. Hello, Archbishop. I'm so proud to be able to talk to you. I would like to ask you a question.
Sure.
My sister died tragically 2 years ago, and we were very close. And I cursed God for almost a year. I was just wondering, is God ever going to forgive me? I asked him every day to. I don't know. I feel so bad for what I did.
But you said you asked forgiveness from him, right?
Yes, sir, every day.
He's forgiven you. Absolutely. There's not even the slightest doubt in my mind. If that's what you want from him, that's what he's giving you already this very moment.
Even though I cursed him to everybody.
Of course.
And I know the Lord.
Yes.
I was raised a Baptist. But I know the Lord and love the Lord.
Right.
But I cursed God. And isn't that like an unforgivable sin?
I am not going to define an unforgivable sin. I think God has forgiven you 100%, and you should really embrace that, especially this time.
Yes, sir.
Fine, please.
I thank you very much, Archbishop.
Sister,
I'm very proud to talk to you.
Thank you, Homer. Be well, my friend. We'll take a break. Archbishop Marino will continue taking your phone calls the final few minutes on this Friday before Christmas. We welcome you back. Final few minutes of what has already been a memorable program. Lee is in Seattle with Archbishop Marino. Hello, Lee.
Hey, Archbishop. I spoke with you last year regarding, just the loss of about everybody I ever knew. And I called you Monsignor earlier, so I apologize for that. I have a question. The quote that you mentioned, God makes his likeness. Can you please say that again? Because I'm going to really mess it up. Makes people in his likeness?
In the book of Genesis, the stories of creation, it's written there. So maybe I don't have the scriptures right in front of me. God created man in his image and likeness.
Okay. And as far as I know, he is considered love and good. I don't understand then how every time you read something terrible, awful people around the world that, are doing terrible things to their country, in every place it seems like South America. How do you just justify that? I know there's good in the world too, but how do you get over seeing such horrible people?
Well, God also gives us absolute freedom to act the way we wish. Yeah. So,
well, how are we supposed to see, just the terribleness that man can do and still say, God makes likeness and everything? I guess that's where I always have a hard time.
It is shocking. It is shocking. And when the phrase image and likeness does not mean that we are God. It means that we have the capacity to know God. There's something in us that connects us to him. That's what that means. But it doesn't mean that we're going to be like God or perfect like God. No.
Lee, thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you. And Tracy is up next in Baton Rouge. Hello, Tracy.
Hi, Paul. Love your show.
Thank you so much.
I'm calling for Archbishop Marino to pray for me and my family. We lost our son last year, hours before his 22nd birthday. to a drug overdose, and we need some peace.
Tracy, would you mind? Tracy, would you mind turning that down a little bit while the Archbishop speaks?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I just think it'd be easier for you to listen to what he has to say. Thank you.
Hello?
Yeah.
Tracy,
yeah.
you're still there?
Yeah, she's here, Archbishop. She was just turning her television down.
All right, good. Well, first of all,
Hi, Archbishop.
hello.
We lost our son last year. A tragic loss. He would have been 22 years old, and he died by a drug overdose. And just calling to ask you to pray for peace for our family. We've been struggling.
Of course. I can't imagine the pain, the deep pain for parents to see a child go before them. The natural way we see our parents go, right? But to see mother and father, to see a son or a daughter leave the world, especially in this tragic way, it is an unbearable pain. But the only thing we can just be assured that even in that, God is loving us tenderly. And we pray that, of course, your son is with him, and that will be my prayer. And hopefully that can give us some peace. All the peace.
Thank you so much.
Okay. God bless.
God bless you, and you too, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jay is up next with Archbishop Marino. Jay?
Paul, it's been too long.
Great to have you on.
Marietta sends her very best.
Thank you so much.
In case anybody thinks I'm ignoring Joe, I'm not. We had the pleasure of spending some great time with him this past week. He took the time out of his busy schedule to baptize our fourth grandchild. He's great. He's baptized all of our grandchildren on these short visits, and we actually had our annual dinner, which is so great. A couple of things real quickly. I know so many people want to talk to Joe. Quickly on this appointment to president of the Pontifical Ecclesiastical Academy. The best way that I can describe it, from what I understand, is it's Top Gun. Everybody knows Top Gun is the best of the best and you know, I asked him what is the curriculum? Well, it's diplomatic diplomacy. These are the best of the best to go around the world and represent Christ, represent the Pope as an ambassador in the church. And it's no. The thing about it is, this Inslee kid that I grew up with, in case people don't know, Inslee is the former steelmaking community of Birmingham, where a lot of Italians were, and every other block there was a mom and pop Italian grocery store. This kid from Inslee is now one of the leaders of the Catholic Church. It sounds impressive, and it is, but for those of us who know him, we're not surprised one bit. And so it's just an honor, but we're not a bit surprised, and he will fulfill that. Secondly, I have to say this, not to end on a sad note, but when brave men do very, very brave things, it should be recognized. When Uncle Sal died, Paul, you know, we were all heartbroken. We were wondering, is Joe going to be able to say his father's funeral mass? How can he do that? They were so close, but he did. And everybody in the church was just in awe and spellbound because he did it with such dignity and with such love and just leadership. It's like he was leading all of us in this service. And I know his daddy was smiling down, just like he is every day. Finally, this man that you're talking to and who comes on every year, he's one of the most learned theologians in the world. But yet these calls that we've just heard, they're so hard to follow. When he speaks to people, it is just with such kindness. You can just tell that they've been touched by him. It's just it's just hard to believe, and I feel that way. Everybody that I know that is with him, they feel that way every time that they're with him.
Yeah, I apologize for
interrupting.
We're so short on time here. I just wanted to thank you for saying that. Jay, thank you very, very much, and I can't wait to see you and Marietta. And Archbishop Marino, I know that you're too humble in our final 15 or 20 seconds to even comment on that, but we all feel the same way about you, and we are incredibly proud of you.
Well, thank you. And Jay, that was too kind. All of you are too kind. And y'all were very kind, your staff, when you sent flowers at the time of my dad's death. That touched me a lot. Thank you so much. God bless. Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much, Archbishop Marino. Can't express our thanks to him for making this such a special program. Well, anyway, sometimes you just sit back and let everything take care of itself, and it did tonight. I think we're all blessed that Archbishop Marino was here and made so many comments that touched so many different people. I thank both of you guys, Jamar especially, getting the right calls for the Archbishop is a challenge, and you guys really did a great job.
Thank you. I mean, it's such a special show, Paul. I mean, having callers call in and talk to him about, their issues, it really makes you thankful, for some of the own problems that you may have that you think are so much bigger than they actually are, but they're really not.
Yeah, you did a great job screening all the calls there. Paul, great job kind of directing traffic. It is incredibly fun hour, meaningful hour. And, but this show does so many things, and there's always surprises in the show. And again, every year we have this final hour, and it's a great surprise to have, and really, get you thinking before you head out into the holiday season. So, Merry Christmas, everybody. That was fantastic.
Yeah, thanks to everybody for making this year, and especially today, one of the most memorable that we've ever had. A blessed holiday to everyone, and we'll see you next week.